There's no time.
Lost.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, you guys. It's episode 198.
Yeah, Bob Lazar.
We're talking about aliens, baby.
Yeah. We've only done, I think one other UFO show.
Wait a minute. We did one on Travis Walton, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then we did one on the triangles.
Yeah.
Did we do a Phoenix Lights one?
No. We need to do that.
I thought we did,
We need
but...
to do Phoenix. I don't think we did Phoenix Lights.
Or maybe we did one that was,
Just-
all together.
Yeah, we mentioned Phoenix Lights.
We probably did.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've had, numerous requests to do Bob Lazar and, Area 51 type stuff. So finally I was kind of yeah, might as well, since we did, a really creepy true crime thing last week. So we're trying to, mix it up a little bit. And also because the Netflix has a very well-known documentary called Bob Lazar and Area 51, Aliens and Area 50 or something like that. And Jeremy Corbell made it. I think it came out in 2018. But we just watched that the other night.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Me and Bob go back a long time. Okay. For you youngsters, I'm gonna go ahead and give a damn introduction and kind of set the scene for what the whole Bob Lazar game was about. Bob Lazar appeared out of nowhere when I was younger. I guess I was, late teens, early 20s.
He first came on the news in 1989. So.
Oh yeah, so the late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
This is back before the internet. You could kind of say anything you wanted to say, and it was real hard to check. You just kind of had to believe what you were being told when you saw, when you were watching it on television. And back in those days, man, Bob Lazar, he had a wild story, and he looked like a scientist, so you kind of believed it.
It was the big glasses.
Yeah. Now, first of all, let me say this. I know there are extraterrestrials. You'd be an idiot to think that there isn't life on other planets, especially now that there's these new surveys being done. Earth-like worlds are going to be common. I think life is going to be pretty common on those Earth-like worlds. All right. Even if you're only talking about 2% of the Earth-like planets having life on them, that means there's fucking millions of them still. That means There's lots of them. Okay. So yeah, there's extraterrestrials, and recently I've always believed that that the military and the government saw them. There are some reports that are very difficult to dismiss. And recently, as of time of recording this, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Pentagon came out and said, yeah, we see things. They showed the videos, some of the stuff that they've seen. But they see mysterious objects and moving and doing things that aircraft can't do. They don't come out and say they're extraterrestrials. But, there may be a few other explanations of what they could be. But based on pilots, descriptions of shit that's happened, I can't see how it wouldn't be extraterrestrial. So, I think I think we're probably in somebody's territory and they check up on us. They're not trying to invade us or anything. So, just because we might say something crazy about Bob Lazar, we're not implying that we don't believe that there are extraterrestrials. I'm pretty sure there are. And I know there are extraterrestrials. I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure that extraterrestrial craft come here and are seen by the military.
Yeah, I'm going to go, okay, from a statistical standpoint, I think it would be really unlikely if there wasn't other life in the universe. And
very unlikely.
Again, statistically, it's probably follows that some of them are more technologically advanced than us.
Yeah.
As to whether any of them have visited here, I'm less sure about. If they did, I think it was more something like you said, like a pilot's opening. It was just like a drive-by. I don't think any of them have landed. I don't think I don't think anybody has like made contact with them. I don't think they probed anyone's anus. I don't think anything like that. So pretty much any people that come up with stories like that either are making it up or are mistaken or something like that. I'm not saying that I don't think that they have seen like craft or something like that. That's possible. But I don't think they've crashed or anything like that. So I don't believe any of that Roswell shit or any of that.
It's very, very unlikely that the military or the government has any knowledge of any of this.
Yeah.
It's more likely that they're getting reports that they believe, but there's nothing they can do about it.
Right.
And what are they going to say? You know what I mean? Especially back in the days, you know what I mean? Back in the 50s and the 60s. They're not going to say, look, we're the Air Force. We're in charge of keeping you safe by keeping shit out of the sky.
But guess what?
We're seeing these craft that come from another fucking world. And they're probably millions of years in advance of us in terms of technology. And there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, so if they wanted to like just blast us all like to Kingdom Come,
that could
we're
happen.
Pretty much hosed.
We're basically fish in a fish tank, and there's somebody walking around sticking their hand in a tank. Don't worry about it, though. It's okay. You know, if they wanted to eat us, they'd have eaten us by now. That's
what I figure.
That's not gonna. But that kind of shit is not gonna reassure the public.
Yeah.
So, I think that over the years, they probably compiled a bunch of reports, and there's an office somewhere that keeps track of all that. And they're like, the guys that keep track of all that damn information are like, yeah, something's coming. We don't know what it is. They haven't talked to us. That's probably what it is.
And I think, too, the problem with it, and I think it's probably pretty wise for them to just come out and say, look, we do see things that they're anomalous. We don't know what they are. But it would be dumb to come out and say they're extraterrestrial because they don't know if they're extraterrestrial. It's like, you know, it could be anything. It's like it could be a mistake. It could be a misidentification. It could be extraterrestrial, but they don't know. So it would be dumb to say that they knew it was extraterrestrial because they don't know.
The stuff that's extraterrestrial that they see, and some of the stuff I think is extraterrestrial just based on the reports. Because you know, some of the shit goes back into the 70s, and we couldn't make this kind of stuff back in the 70s. No way. What they're seeing probably isn't what you would think of as a spaceship, which is a damn, you know, a fucking interplanetary car. You get in it, you drive from one planet to... That's probably not what it is.
We're the vacation planet.
Yeah. Probably what you're seeing is some kind of a probe or a living machine. The chances of them being biological are very unlikely. Biology breaks down, you know, it dies, but machines can live forever. They're immortal. So it stands to reason that eventually biological entities make intelligent computers, and then those live longer than them. Like out of the damn movie AI.
Well, like you said, I think it's more likely if I was an extraterrestrial that was like, you know...
Spacefaring.
That was spacefaring in several thousand or million years ahead of Earthlings, but I wanted to kind of keep track of them to make sure they weren't getting up to any mischief, then you would just build drones. Why would you send, like, one of your people, like one of your extraterrestrial people, when you could just send a machine and just be like, hey, go check that out?
I don't think they're people as we know it. I think they're people in the way that the monolith was a people in 2001.
The monolith was a people.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I think they're kind of like a superior, almost godlike intellect that's machine based, and they're not biological. If they're watching us, they don't think that we're all that important. All right.
See, that's what I'm thinking. It's like, why the hell? Like, that's another reason why I don't buy like any of these kind of like, oh, I was abducted by aliens or they probed me or anything like that. Why the hell would they care?
Anything that could get here can go anywhere.
Right.
So that means we have all this other shit in the universe we got to compete against.
Yeah.
And we're not interesting.
Like what? Yeah. Why would we be interesting?
They're just, you know, you go out in your backyard and you see some bugs on the ground. You just keep walking. You don't stop and talk to the bugs.
Yeah.
Bugs aren't interesting. You got a place to be. You know. So these things are going to be most likely living machines. And it's not artificial intelligence. It's real intelligence. They just happen to be machine-based. And they're immortal. And if they're just going around looking at stuff, because maybe we're the nursery, basically.
Yeah.
They look at stuff like humans on the planet and they go, yeah, that might make it. You know? And they might make some artificial intelligence one day in a computer. And then that might evolve into real intelligences like us. Let's just see if they make any of us.
Yeah, and then they sit back and they have
Sit
the
back.
popcorn.
Yeah.
Just
Well, they're
watching.
immortal. They would be immortal, and they'd be living in kind of like an internet. So they got all the time in the world. You know, billions of years wouldn't seem like much to them. So, you know what I mean? They're operating on a totally different time scale than we operate. Like, you know, the bacteria, we got bacteria that only live a couple days.
Yeah.
You know, to them, that's an entire lifetime. For us, that's nothing. Well, that's the differences we're talking about. We're talking about vast differences. Anything that could come here is very old, very ancient. And I don't think it's biological. So some of this stuff that I think these pilots are seeing would be, like when you see the damn UFO, that's the alien, basically.
Yeah.
That's how it looks from your point of view. And it may be, like you said, like a drone or a robot, but it's hooked up with an internet, and they can fucking kind of transport their intelligence into that thing, and it's kind of, they can get like a first-person view of what's, you know what I mean, of what the probe's doing.
Yeah.
They can take control.
It's almost like an avatar.
It's like an avatar
Yeah.
for the alien. The alien is probably something that lives in an internet, and it's like stretches across the galaxy. So, you know, an internet that where, you know what I mean, the information can flow faster than the speed of light. It's like a quantum type internet. Probably existing in a higher dimension. So, you know what I mean? So, here is also there. So, space and time would be meaningless to them. So, you know, they've conquered all that.
Yeah.
They're set on expert. You know what I mean? We're set on novice.
Well, yeah,
Or
and
we're
that's
barely playing the game.
that's
you know?
kind of like why I think that, you know, a lot of the older, you know, alien abduction stories or like alien, you know, flying saucer sightings and stuff like that. To me, it just seems like it betrays like a lack of imagination, because if there really are extraterrestrial intelligences, I don't even think that humans would be able to imagine
Yeah.
what they were up to.
Yeah, when you got these guys from fucking the Ozarks and stuff, you know, and they're from Alabama, and they say they got abducted by this and that, you know what I mean? And it was a beautiful alien woman that fucking took interest in them and shit like that. Dude's name's Elmer, and he had fucking overalls on.
The
and
alien
aliens
woman wanted
thought that he
him
was-
to impregnate
Yeah,
her.
thought that he was fucking awesome. They actually had a guy who said that.
I know. I was
back,
listening to that
back in
earlier
the 60s
today.
and shit, early 60s. When you hear shit like that, they're describing a civilization that would only be like a couple hundred years or 100 years ahead, maybe,
Yeah.
but socially like 50 years behind us right now. This is just the imaginations of a fucking madman. That's not the way. It's not the way societies and aliens would be progressing. They wouldn't evolve like that. The most accurate description of an extraterrestrial I can think of is fucking 2001, The Space Odyssey. See that bitch. That whole movie was vetted by scientists, and Kubrick worked with them. All that stuff that they were working on, the moon bases and the fucking spaceships and everything, were all based upon stuff that they were really going to make.
Yeah.
That, you know, the little, you know, Project Orion got canceled, and had Project Orion happened, they would have been able to get enough stuff up into orbit where they could have made all that. But, you know, SpaceX is doing pretty good. They'll probably come close to what you see in 2001 in a few decades.
Yeah.
All the expense was getting stuff up into orbit. You know, they didn't really. That's what's holding us back. But if you've ever seen 2001, that's what an alien would be like. One that could come here.
Yeah.
You know, they have aliens that are like us, but they're trapped on their planets. They can't get here. They're like us. They're stuck.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of them that are just animalistic. You know, just animals.
Yeah,
Probably a
because
lot of that.
I mean, it stands to reason that there's a bunch of planets that have life that's not as quote unquote evolved as
Yeah.
Earth either. Like, because there's going to be some that's like behind.
Yeah, way behind. Or a lot of the planets will have life on them, but the life will appear billions of years from now.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Or it's just microbes.
Either that, or like there's a really like advanced technological civilization, and they're really into like this interplanetary show that's kind of like the equivalent of Jackass. And so they like come to Earth and like kidnap people, and then they film it,
Yeah.
and then they put it on their version of YouTube. For everyone's edification and amusement.
I would think that if there were any biological entities that were interplanetary, that were traveling between planets and were fairly advanced, they'd probably be highly genetically engineered also.
True.
So
because I mean we're even heading that way.
We're heading
like,
that way.
You know, so.
And the chances are, if they're really genetically engineered, they'd be like something kind of like the engineers out of Prometheus. They didn't really have any gender. They could live for millions of years. Not much of a sense of humor. You know, it'd be something like that. Something that was very stable emotionally and stuff. So they didn't fight, you know, or maybe they did fight. Yeah, I don't know. But I just wouldn't think. I would think that, you know, I think we're still kind of simian. We're kind of ape-like still.
Yeah.
Something that's maybe a few thousand years ahead of us when they're dealing with genetic engineering and stuff, they'd be less like us. More like them damn almond-shaped fucking gray aliens that they're describing. That's kind of probably what we'd evolve into with genetic engineering.
I'm all right with that.
Little, big head. No sexual organs.
Also his long, graspy fingers.
It'd be a totally
big, huge eyes.
Would be a totally PC race. Nothing offensive.
Everyone would be gray.
Everyone would be gray. Everyone would all be the same fucking genderless kind of thing, and you'd be little, and you'd just sit up there and fucking surf the web. That's what you'd do.
That sounds cool, actually.
It'd be boring.
But maybe not. Maybe they've like evolved to the where that's like, you know, the pinnacle of like achievement, so they wouldn't get bored. Maybe they've evolved beyond boredom. You ever think of that?
Nah. I'm not. I kind of think being well-rounded is really the secret to survival in the universe over time. You know, something that you kind of blend the best of intellect and aggression together into one thing. That way, you can defend your species against other species, and you're kind of like aggressive, where you take planets and you colonize and multiply like a virus and spread. Something kind of like the damn Klingons. That would probably be or the things from Predator, maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that. Or
you would totally be a Klingon.
Oh yeah, I'd love that. Something kind of like out of damn Conan. You know what I mean? A spacefaring thing out of Conan. Or something that could make it would be that damn xenomorph from Alien. Something like that. There's probably lots of that kind of shit.
Yeah, if something like that evolved, I think that would very quickly take over the fucking universe.
Here's another one. Here's another one that would be a very successful alien blueprint. The Thing from The Thing, from John Carpenter's The Thing.
I think that is like the perfect distillation.
That's what you want to be.
Yeah, because it's endlessly adaptable.
Endlessly adaptable. You can steal anything from any other race.
You can go anywhere, and apparently they didn't bring this up, I don't think, in the movie. But apparently, whatever planet it landed on, I mean, if it took over your form, then it could...
It had all your knowledge, too.
Well, it had all your knowledge, not only that, but it could also, like, adapt to the environment that you know, that organism, like, you know, lived in.
It could be any shape
that would be
anything.
very, very handy.
And then if it needed more intelligence or more technology just absorbed an enemy alien, and it would know everything that alien knew.
Yeah.
So it could make spaceships, it could do anything.
Well, I think we probably even mentioned this... Probably. We did like a review of The Thing a long time ago. But I was thinking, like, if something like that landed on the Earth, we would be super fucked. And it would not take that long. And you could take over the whole Earth. You could take over, like, fucking universes in a very brief amount of time.
I'm pretty sure Carpenter got that from Lovecraft. I think he copied that from the Shaggoth.
Carpenter was really into Lovecraft. He did a bunch of Lovecraftian
because the Shaggoth was kind of described as that.
Yeah.
And I think he got it from the Shaggoth and the Blob.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the Blob, too.
Yeah, because the Blob couldn't really, like... It just looked like a big...
like a blob.
A melted popsicle, but it could
grew and took over.
Yeah, it just, like, absorbed everybody and just got bigger and bigger, like, just from absorbing. It just looked like a big slushy or whatever.
So we're going to get to Bob here in a minute. You had any shout-outs or anything?
I just had a couple of shout-outs. I wanted to give another thank you to Xanada... who gave us a PayPal donation. So thank you very much for that. We also have a new patron, Jonathan H. So hey there. Thank you very much, you guys. Any support is good support. We like to keep the show going. And like I said, I think I mentioned this on the last week's show, but If you've noticed, hope you guys are liking the matinee, the way I'm breaking up the matinee show into one movie chunks instead of just like dumping them all in one show. So probably there'll be one went up Sunday. I'm going to try and still do 3 a week, but I'm just going to put them up separately instead of just on one show. And then on the days when I don't put anything up, we'll put a sidetracks. So that's kind of our plan for the future. Because like I said, we were doing sidetracks every day, and I know a lot of people liked those, but it did seem like some days we were just kind of like, what the hell are we going to talk about? And then, you know what I mean? I didn't just want to like put something up for the sake of putting something up and we didn't have anything to talk about. So probably we'll just do them once or twice a week when we don't have a movie review going. But that's probably all the shout outs I think that I have. So let's talk about the very famous Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so we just watched this documentary, which, okay. So this documentary came out in 2018. It's on Netflix if you want to watch it. It was made by Jeremy Corbell, who also made a documentary about Skinwalker Ranch, which I haven't seen. And he also made one, I think it was called Patient 17, that was about that, you know, that doctor that says he takes out like alien implants from people that say they've been abducted?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Okay, so he made a documentary about that too. So this guy is a UFO believer, even though in the Bob Lazar documentary, he kind of tries to make it come across like he's sort of skeptical and stuff. I kind of got the feeling that he was trying to look like he was being objective, but not really. Another funny thing about that guy that made the documentary, and if you watch the documentary, he's in most of it. Like, it's about Bob, and George Knapp is in there too, and we'll get into that a little while later.
Yeah,
but
these guys were endlessly entertaining during the during the Art Bell era.
Yeah.
I used to listen to Art Bell, and when they had fucking either one of these guys on, it was
because
like
they were on all the time.
It was like
the
the
Art Bell
fucking
show.
Super Bowl. And for you old timers that remember radio, shit. I remember I'd be fucking listening to fucking Art Bell and Bob Lazar and all these guys on the radio, and then surfing the web through web TV on my television back in the day. It was kind of an eerie feeling.
Yeah.
At the very beginnings of the early internet. It was a trip. I felt like I was in the future. I was doing some shit out of the Running Man.
I'm in the future, only it's right now. My mind is blown.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, so, another thing that made me laugh about the Jeremy Corbell guy was that he's also, I guess he does like MMA fighting style or whatever. And he has developed a style of fighting or something, which he calls, you're going to love this, quantum jujitsu.
Yeah, okay.
And he goes under and he goes by Sensei, just like Steven Seagal.
Shit, we're going to have to hook those two up.
Even though I will say, to be fair, Jeremy Corbell does look like he could probably kick your ass, unlike Steven Seagal, who just looks like he could probably just sit on you and fart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Seagal can kick your ass. He's just going to have to call in his stunt double.
His stunt double can kick your ass.
You stand right there. Hold on. Ready? Because I'm going to kick your fucking ass. Hold on. Ready? Okay. Okay, there you go. And then the stunt double comes in.
Yeah. And then he just kind of sits back there.
You go. Take care of that. You take care of that. Tell me when it's over. And then Seagal's taking pictures of it.
Yeah, and then he'll come over and like make some little quip.
Yeah. See, I told you.
Don't make jokes. One day,
that was the
Seagal...
Asian experience.
That's what that is. One of these days, Steven Seagal is going to show up on our doorstep. He's going to ring our doorbell.
Oh, you're gonna pull out the fucking camera. And
I definitely am.
You're gonna get that shit on tape. That's going right on the show. Me and fucking Seagal getting out there squaring off, kicking each other's ass. I'll take my shirt off and everything.
Yeah, on the driveway.
Yeah, out in the driveway.
Okay, this needs to happen.
I'm gonna put my Terminator glasses on. Put my gargoyles on. Playing 80s track.
Well, yeah. I would definitely have to like put some like 80s power ballad in the back or
power
something
ballad.
like that.
You know, because you're a man. You're a man. Because you're a man is not a lady. I don't know.
This definitely needs to happen now.
Yeah.
Come on, Seagal. Show up at our house. I'll give you the address if you like can prove to me who you are. So, okay. So the thing about Bob Lazar, now, he first came to prominence, as I said, in 1989. He appeared on a Las Vegas TV, like a news program, KLAS. And he was talking to George Knapp, who was an investigative journalist there at the time. Now, the first time that Bob Lazar appeared on TV, he was like in shadow, you know what I mean? And he gave the pseudonym Dennis. Now, his story was that, I can't remember if he actually came out and said that he was a physicist, but he did say that he worked at a place called S4, which was near Area 51, and that he had been tasked with reverse engineering alien spacecraft that the government were keeping there. Like, they wanted to know how it worked, and they hired him to come in there and find out how they worked. So
Off
they could
the street.
reverse engineer, essentially. So
There's
that
already
was
a problem here.
So
with
that was his story. And
Yeah.
he also said later that he had been privy to some classified documents that said that these aliens had been here for 10,000 years, and that they were from Zeta Reticuli, which incidentally was the same place that Betty and Barney Hill said that their aliens were from, that abducted them back in the 50s.
Yes, he's been reading UFO lore.
Yeah, clearly. So he said they'd been here for 10,000 years, and that, the government knew about them, and they'd been, like, using their technology, and there was this kind of thing. But they had, like, I think he said they had 9 spacecraft at this facility, and he's kind of gone back and forth over whether he actually saw any aliens or not, because I think at one point he said, I just glanced over and I saw, like, a little figure that he implied could be an alien. But then when they asked him about it, like, on the recent documentary, he said, I just got a glance, it might have just been something else. He did say that he got to go in one of the ships and tried to sit in one of the seats in the flying saucer, but it was, like, really little, like it was children's size.
Yeah.
So he's implying that these are little bitty aliens.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. You ready?
Here's the thing. There's a whole bunch of things. There's
Yeah,
a whole bunch of things, like, wrong with this story.
My, like, 17, 18, 19-year-old self didn't really question it all that much. The fact that maybe, like, a guy who, how old was he? He's maybe at 26, 27 at the time.
Something like that. Yeah, maybe a little bit older, but
that
yeah.
he would have been basically hired off the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To try to fucking figure out how a UFO works. Okay. That didn't just stop me in my tracks back then, but I hear it now, and I'm like, what?
Well, that's
Because you have to understand something. There's a bunch of fucking there's a bunch of companies that the U.S. government contracts to do really fucking high-tech shit. I guess like Lockheed Martin, okay? You had fucking, Boeing.
Grumman
Aerospace. And, my granddad worked for Grumman. He worked for fucking Boeing. He also worked for General Atomics back in the day. My granddad worked on a Saturn V project. My granddad fucking helped engineer a lot of the fucking F-14 Tomcat and got sent to Iran. And my granddad's family, all my aunts and shit, they got sent to Iran, Isfahan, to help the Shah train his men to fucking learn how to fucking maintain F-14s. And this is in a time before the Ayatollah Khomeini overthrew the country. That's a whole story in itself. Maybe one day I'll do a show on that.
Yeah, you should. That's actually pretty interesting.
My family was in the fucking Iranian Revolution. Some of my aunts were the last American citizens to get out of that embassy before the hostages were taken. If they needed somebody to figure out how a UFO worked, it wouldn't be some dude off the fucking street. It'd be those companies were like pro football teams. They had fucking famous dudes with fucking long track records of success of building some wild ass shit. And they all knew each other. And they traded between companies. Like they would say, we need Ron. Who's Ron? Ron's with General Atomics. Bring him over here. Let's see if we can get him out of there. We need him to work on this. And they were just a bunch of Imagineers. They could imagine it and fucking engineer it. There were no computers. During my granddad's day, it was all fucking slide rules.
Yeah.
They'd go to fucking nightclubs and get drunk and write shit down on napkins and talk about blowing shit up. But they were making sure, but there was a big crowd of them, so nobody could hear what they were talking about, They were speaking in codes, trying to come up with, what's the best way to spray fuel inside of a combustion chamber. They were like hot rodders more than they were. They were not computer geeks, okay? These dudes also, fucking had fucking heavy engineering and heavy fucking mathematical skills. They could just do fucking algebra in their heads. They were that kind of guy, okay? All wore ties. Ties and Coke bottle glasses. That's what they were like back in my granddad's day. Well, those guys were still around when Lazar is talking about.
Yeah.
Okay? And they had coming off all these fucking badass projects. Some of them that'll never see the light of day. External combustion engines and shit. They would have called one of them guys to figure out how a UFO works. Wouldn't have been some dude off the street. Okay.
Yeah.
They had dudes
that
were good at that shit.
There are a huge amount of like holes in the story, but that is one thing that always kind of bothered me about it is that, they had like a very large roster of people that already worked for them, like worked in military capacity and worked for like other contractors that the military used. They had dudes with expertise in exactly that area. If indeed there was an alien spacecraft that they wished to reverse engineer, which I do not believe, then they would have had like a very deep pool of talent to approach.
To ask.
To do that, rather than just hiring a guy. A random motherfucker.
Right.
Even if he had been, as he claimed, to MIT and Caltech, which I also do not believe.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be enough. That community really didn't care too much about fucking what school you went to. They cared about what projects you'd come off of last. In other words, you know what I mean? Some of those dudes started all the way back in the end part of World War II.
Yeah.
So it's mostly about their past accomplishments on projects. That's what mattered to them more than anything else. Coming out of some school, that wasn't enough for them. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you have to think that if there was indeed alien technology and they wanted to figure out how it worked...
it'd be priority one.
That would be priority one.
One.
It would be two. It would be really, really top secret.
Yeah, and they had dudes, they had the right kind of dudes for that had come off all kinds of top secret projects, even more secret than the SR-71. They have projects that were even more secret that had never seen the light of day, that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
But guys have come out and said, oh no, that ain't shit. There's stuff you don't even know about. So, no, they wouldn't have asked Bob. It would have been people that they'd been working working with for 30 years, 40 years. And they would make that priority one. They would pull all those dudes off of whatever projects they were on and put them on a damn UFO project. And they would be fucking thrilled to be on that project.
Well, yeah. Can you imagine how fucking cool that would be if that was your career and you'd been in that scene your whole entire life, and they said, "Hey, guess what? There's for real aliens.
For real aliens, and you
need to figure out."
Yeah, and you'd get one guy in there, and they'd ask him. They say, "Who do we need? Who do we need to get on? To figure this out?" And that one contractor would fucking go, "Oh, we need fucking Ron. We need fucking Bob. We need fucking Mike." They're all on a fucking first name basis, especially back in those days. It was a small community of them, And I'm saying small, you're talking about a few thousand of them, but they knew each other.
Yeah. Well, you would have to.
They all worked amongst the same companies and they were trading.
Yeah. It's just like any kind of specialized field where, even if you don't know that person directly, someone who knows them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like everyone's kind of known by reputation.
Yeah. And here's the deal. If they got their hands on a fucking UFO from another planet, even those guys probably wouldn't be able to figure it out. I don't think so.
Not if it was as advanced as...
If it was so advanced that it could get here across, fucking interstellar space through warp technology and shit, they probably wouldn't know what they were looking at, I'm thinking.
Probably not. I mean, there might be a couple people that would be able to figure out, but really not very many, I wouldn't imagine.
I would think interplanetary fucking warp drive type spaceships... If something like that really exists, which I think they probably do, you're going to run into some weird shit that you hadn't thought of. You're going to run into shit like, you see the ship sitting there. You know what I mean? It's the size of an RV. But when you open it up, it's the size of a battleship. In other words, it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. You're going to run into that.
Like a TARDIS.
Like a TARDIS. You're going to run into shit like that. And I don't think there's going to be any human alive that's going to be able to figure out how that was done. Yeah, because what the fuck, how would you even start with that? Like, you would just open and be like, well, I'm stumped. Yeah. And then you're going to go down and you're going to look for the engine room and you find out you'll never find it. You're like, there's no engine.
Yeah.
There's no combustion. There's no, you know what I mean? You might find a room that just looks like a damn crystal with a fucking bunch of rays coming into it. You know what I mean? How are you going to figure that out?
That's what I mean. It
Yeah.
really seems like it would be too difficult a job.
And then you fucking go, well, the power source of this that's driving this must not be in this dimension. It must be coming out of a higher dimension, a direction we can't point to. So most of the machine isn't here. Most of the machine is in another dimension. How
Yeah.
are you going to fucking figure that out?
Right. Yeah, like I said, I would be very surprised if there
But
was...
that's probably what you're going to be dealing with
Yeah.
when you're talking about a machine that can go across those distances in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
That's probably what you're talking about.
And I mean, the thing about it too, so Bob says that there's 9 saucers, and he was in there working on trying to reverse engineer them. He actually did a sketch of one of them on the documentary, and it looked pretty much like a standard flying saucer, like you would see, you know, just out of anybody that would like that's been abducted or whatever. The one that he drew, he usually calls that one the sport model, which for some reason made me laugh really hard. He said that it looked like metallic, like a lot of them was, then it looked like it was made kind of out of stainless steel, but it was something different to that. Now, so like I said, the first time he was on the news, you know, he was anonymous, but then like a few months later, he came out with his own name and all this other kind of shit. Now, after he came out with his own name, he started making claims that the government was mad at him for like blowing the whistle on all this UFO stuff. He said that he had been shot at. He said that he was like under surveillance and all this other kind of stuff. Again, which I'm not really sure how much of that I believe. Now, one claim that he did make, and this is kind of significant because it kind of came into play later on, was that he claimed that the ship was powered by a chemical element 115. Now, at the time he made this claim, that chemical element had not been, they had never made it, like in a lab. It wasn't on the periodic table of the elements yet. You know what I mean? So he said that was, he said that it was a very, very heavy element, that it was like some kind of propulsion system, like an anti-gravity type of thing, and that it was fueled by a stable isotope of this particular element. Now, significantly, before it was discovered, because like I said, the periodic table of the elements, they have like provisional, numbers and like names for elements that haven't been discovered yet, that they think that it's like, you know, it's probably out there, but they haven't made it in a lab or they haven't found it or anything like that. But so they do have like little names and stuff. So 115, when he made this claim, was actually provisionally named ununpentium. Mm-hmm. However, in 2003, Russian scientists actually made some in a lab. So they called it muscovium. Now, the thing about muscovium, though, is that, yes, it was a very heavy element, which, you know, he knew a lot about chemistry, so he was just guessing because that was like the area of the periodic table that it was on, which, you know, consisted of other heavy elements, so he just assumed heavy, right, that that's what it was. Right. However, they have yet to find any kind of stable isotope of this particular element. They've only been able to make, I believe, only 50 atoms of this stuff, and their half-life is 0.65 seconds.
So it vanishes as soon as you make it.
And it is highly, highly radioactive.
Okay.
So they said pretty much anything, you know, anything that you're claiming that they're using this, like, to power somebody, they're like, not impossible, but extremely, extremely unlikely due to the nature of this element. So I'm kind of thinking that because that element had not been discovered yet, that he was just kind of winging it when he said that. And it was like, well, we haven't discovered this one, so I'll just say that it's that element. Because like I said, he did know a lot about chemistry, and in fact, he still owns a business where he like sells chemicals and various other things, which has gotten him in trouble a few times. We'll get into that later. But there's there's a really old site that I found, and I didn't want to get like too much into like physics or science or anything like that because it's like people's eyes would glaze over. But there's a really old site. It's I think it's under the name Blue Fire. So if you just like search Blue Fire Bob Lazar, you should be able to find it. It's most of the articles are really old. They're like from before 1997. But there was an update, I think, in 2018, like when the documentary came out. But there's like a whole bunch of links to articles with like real physicists and like stuff like that, like kind of taking down his claims. So if you know anything about chemistry, or if you know anything about physics or anything like that, you can go read that stuff and you can see that a lot of the claims that he's making about the way that this, alleged flying saucer was propelled, would not work, like very likely would not work. And they're not saying that it's impossible, because yes, it's alien technology and maybe it's something we don't understand and stuff like that, but they're just saying, one physicist that I saw in there was like, he's like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but given everything that we know about physics and chemistry and stuff like that, it's really, really, really unlikely that it would work the way he said it works. Because he's basically saying that it was like, not making a wormhole, but it was like making gravity and anti-gravity protons or something like that. It was like pulling your destination like towards yourself, essentially, is what he was saying that this ship could do.
Yeah, and when he describes the internal workings of it, it's all very vague. He's saying, this module somehow interplays with this module over here. We don't know how they're connected. And then this one makes this one do something, and we didn't really... And then it works. So it's just... If they hired him to figure it out, he didn't figure it out. Right.
Because, like you said, his descriptions are very vague.
Yeah.
And for somebody who supposedly has a master's degree in physics from MIT and a master's degree in electronic technology from Caltech, a degree which they do not offer, which I should point out, he really doesn't seem to know he knows enough about physics and chemistry to sound...
to bullshit you.
Yeah, to sound like kind of like he knows what he's talking about. But everything that I've read from like actual scientists that have actual master's degrees from MIT and stuff like that are like, he just sounds like an intelligent layman, like, but he doesn't really know what he's talking about. And it's like some of the mistakes that he makes are really like simple to debunk.
You're right. His description of how the UFO worked kind of reads like the description of a flowchart. Like there's this, and then it's connected to that, and it does this, and it does that. And that's because that's how he invented the engine. He invented it like a flowchart. But in reality, if you were presented with this engine that he's talking about, how could you know it was doing that if you didn't understand the interplay between the two?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would be like if you didn't know how an engine worked. Okay? Well, I'm trying to make a good analogy to that. How could you accurately describe what was going on in an engine, if you didn't know anything about internal combustion? You didn't know what a piston was.
Yeah, because if you're just looking at it, it's not obvious.
It's not all that obvious. So he was saying, this does this, and this is connected to this, and it does this, and it does this, but we don't know how it does it. Well, then how do you know what these do?
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm trying.
Yeah, because you're just kind of like making up this,
but
there's no link between the two things.
If you can't prove that they're linked and this process is happening, then you can't prove what each one of those objects is doing inside that engine.
Yeah.
Because he wrote it down like a flow chart of what he thought would have to happen. But
it's kind of interesting that he would do that, and telling that he would do that, because that's, like I said, he's not a dummy. It's like he does know a lot about chemistry. He ever since he was a kid, he was really interested in like rockets and jet fuel and stuff like that. Like he had a bicycle that had like a jet engine on the back. He had a car with a jet engine, all this other kind of stuff. So he's good at like building things. He's good at like making chemical things. He's gotten in trouble for like doing fireworks and stuff like that. But so I think that he's just extrapolating the way that an engine works.
Right, yeah.
And he's extrapolating that to an interplanetary like type of engine.
Right. He said none of those components were physically connected to one another. That one interacted or acted on another through some kind of a field that they couldn't detect. You can't detect the field, and how do you know what's happening and all that stuff?
Right. How do you know how they're interconnected?
Right. How do you know what each one of those components does if you can't even detect the field that happens in between the two?
Right.
So it's just conjecture.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to prove what was happening there. He made it up. He just made it up.
I think he did too. And like I said, it's the crazy thing about it is that, like you said, maybe back in 1989, or early 90s, like before there was an internet, you could get away with a lot more shit. You could go on the news and say you were a physicist, that you had worked at Area 51 or S4. I don't think he said he worked at Area 51 exactly, but S4, which is like near there. So you could say you worked there. You said you saw the alien spacecraft. You said all this, and people were like, a lot of people didn't like believe him, but I think he sounded kind of credible. It almost sounded kind of credible. And he did come across as a very intelligent guy. He's very well spoken. He did kind of sound like he knew what he was talking about. It sounded sort of reasonable what he was saying. But the more people started looking into his background, and this is crazy too. So like I said, he said he went to MIT. He said he went to Caltech. Now, neither one of those schools have any record of him, obviously. It doesn't look like he got a degree there. He's not in any of the yearbooks. None of the teachers that, the professors that were teaching there at the time remembered him.
He claimed the men in black erased his history.
Right. But the thing about it is that, so they pulled his high school records. Now, he did go to high school. He graduated from high school. He only took one science class. It was chemistry. He graduated in the bottom third of his class. They're like, look, if you graduate in the bottom third, MIT or Caltech are not going to take you.
They don't want you, yeah.
That's just not how that works.
Nope.
So that's another thing. The only school that has a record of him is Phillips, or what the hell is it called? So it's a junior college. Okay. He took some chemistry or some electronics or technical type of classes there in the late 70s, and there was a professor there that remembered him. But that is, as far as I know, is the only secondary education that he had. And like you said, he claimed later that his whole entire educational background had been erased. But they're like, could they really erase all of the yearbooks, all of the people's memories, it's like none of the other students there recognized him. He didn't have a thesis. He's like, if you got a master's from MIT, you have to write a thesis. You would have to have,
some kind of an intelligence agency wouldn't try to erase your background like that. What they would do is they just try to discredit you with something that happened recently.
Right.
But they would frame you for rape. That'd be something that they would do. Frame you for rape.
Well, yeah, it just seems like
then all of a sudden you have to fucking
there would be easier ways to do that.
Yeah.
Because if you had actually gone to, such high profile colleges as those, people would remember you. And like I said, if you got a master's degree, you have to write a thesis to do that. And and those are all on file.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you have to have an advisor for that. And you have to have so someone would have remembered him and nobody does.
Yeah.
Now, another thing is that they're pretty sure that he didn't work at, the Area 51, but he worked there, but not for the main company. He worked there as a technician of some kind, nothing, real technical or anything. They hired them some kind of electronics technicians, I guess to fix shit, fix computers and fix that kind of crap. He worked there, but it was for an outside contractor. So pretty much the sole proof that George Knapp and all these other people come out with that say, yes, he worked at this facility, was they're look, his name is in the phone book, the phone directory. But next to his name, it says KM, K/M. That stands for Kirk Mayer, I think is the name of the company. And that's an outside contractor that they would bring in just these electric tech. And I saw this one documentary where they had an ad. They said they ran this ad in the paper all the time, looking for electronics technicians to work for Kirk Mayer. And you would go to all these other facilities and fix their computers and shit like that. So he was doing shit like that. He didn't have any security clearance. He didn't have anything like that. So, he wasn't working at that main facility in that capacity, essentially. So it's yes, he did go in that facility. He did know the layout of it and shit like that. But he wasn't in any official capacity.
What's funny is that nowadays, you know what I mean, they got guys doing that with no education at all, just setting up a computer.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't require any special education now. That's a glorified janitor.
Yeah, well,
Basically.
you know.
He was setting up people's computers, right?
As far as I know, it was just, I think the job that he was hired for, like I said, for the ad that I saw, was just like electronics technician or something like that.
What does that mean? I mean, that can mean anything. That could be changing light bulbs.
It could.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Maybe that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Well, like, as far as I know.
I think what they're talking about is glorified janitor.
As far as
changing light bulbs, fucking maybe replacing light switches.
They did call him like a fix-it guy, so I don't know if he was fixing computers or if he was just fixing other, like, electric shit around there.
It's a janitor.
You know what I mean? It seems something like that. I'm not sure exactly like what his job was.
Maintenance man.
But he did work there, but only in that capacity. Because the thing about it is that, as far as I can determine, he did go to that junior college and he did take some classes like in, computer technician and stuff like that. But I don't know if he got like a degree or anything.
Well, back in those days, you know what I mean? The average person couldn't format a hard drive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'd have to go to school to learn how to do that. Nowadays, you could look that up on the fucking internet real quick. People don't format hard drives anymore. I think that's all obsolete. But it wasn't that hard. I could do it.
Yeah.
I had a service tech walk me through it one time over the telephone. One time, and then after that, I could do it from there on out. Remember formatting hard drives?
Yeah.
That was something else. Yeah.
That's been a long time since I thought about doing that.
But like that was considered to be like some high speed shit back in the day.
Well, I think when computers first kind of became ubiquitous, there was a lot of, especially like older people that just didn't have any idea.
They didn't have any fucking clue,
like how they worked.
I went to a job offer one time, after I got out of the army, and the guy was saying, "Do you know how to use fucking Windows?" I went, "Yeah," and he didn't believe me. The boss didn't believe me. You know how to use the Windows? Yeah.
Now they teach you that shit when you're a fucking baby.
Babies learn how to use that.
Babies know how to use computers.
But, you know what I mean? In 96, that was like, 95, 96, I think that was a rare skill, but I had a home computer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we got our first computer in 95 or something.
So he's like, "You know how to use Windows?" I said, "Yeah." "Do you think you could run Excel?" And he goes, "Yeah, it was kind of a boring one. I could learn that in a couple of days." Oh, he didn't think I could learn that.
Crazy. Now everybody knows.
Because he didn't know how to do it.
Because everybody knows how to use Excel.
He didn't know how to do it. It's just like out of that Office Spaces.
Yeah.
Remember that movie, Office Space?
Office Space.
Office Space. Yeah, it's just like that movie out of Office Space. Yeah, okay, Bob. He's like that. One of those dudes.
It's just hilarious to think that it's like now you have to know how to do all of that shit, or else you're not getting a job at all.
He thought I was too young and just out of the army that I didn't know how to use a computer. And I says, "No, I got one."
That's hilarious.
Says I could do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What?" He was like 50. You know what I mean? He was like 50.
You know how to do the magic?
And it says, "Yeah, I can format a hard drive and he thought that was just like some super high tech skill that you had to fucking have a 4-year degree to understand.
You should have like totally played that up. You should have like you were some kind of like technical genius or something.
Well, I just said, and that's pretty easy stuff. And he looked at me like, "Huh? What?"
That's very funny.
Isn't that something? 96 was a motherfucker, man.
It's funny to think about now, like I said, because everybody,
that's a basic skill.
Yeah, you have to know how to do that nowadays. Yeah. You have to.
What I do on my little fucking tablet, is far more complicated than anything I was ever doing on fucking like a Gateway 2000 back in fucking, 95, 96.
Shit, man. I remember using a fucking Apple IIe back when I was in 3rd grade.
Remember those?
Old.
Yeah. Playing wizardry and shit.
In 1978?
Yeah.
1978. With those big old 5 1/4 floppies.
Yeah. Wizardry 2.
Playing Wagon Train. And I think Wagon Train was a little bit later. But yeah. We were mostly like doing that little turtle game. You had to because you had to, we didn't have Windows back then. You had to like write your own code.
You'd write code and shit.
Because
in BASIC.
Yeah, because it wouldn't do anything otherwise. Right. It would just like the little cursor would just blink at you until you typed something in there.
Had I known now what I knew, had I known back then what I know now, I would have fucking driven that old man crazy. Because I was trying to be polite, and as soon as he started fucking treating me that way, I should have known that I wasn't gonna get the job, so I might as well go ahead and just kept fucking with him.
Yeah.
He says, "You know how to do that?" He says, "Yeah, you can't teach an old dog new tricks." I should have just started bagging on him.
What are you, fucking stupid or something?
Yeah, you know how to do that? You know how to do that? Because what
century are you from?
Yeah, really. As soon as I picked up that skepticism from him, I should have just fucking went right in on him.
Yeah.
Just fucking should have gone pure testosterone. It says, "You're too old to learn that, aren't you?" Says, You don't want to hire me, I'll replace you. How much you making? 75,000? Shit, I'll do your job for 40. Where's your boss? Should have really hit that fucker where it hurt.
That would have been hilarious, man. You totally should have done that.
You're out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Fucking be kicking the floor as he's walking out. Get the fuck out of here.
Don't know how to use Windows. God damn it.
Go home and fuck your fat floppy wife.
Go home and fuck your fat floppy wife. There's a new t-shirt.
Yeah.
Write that one down.
Yeah.
I have a huge fucking list.
My 21-year-old ass with all these hotties and shit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know what it's really weird, too? It's like, I was reading this other site. I think it was that Blue Fire site. And it had, like, this timeline, like a Bob Lazar timeline, like, from fucking birth onward. Now, you know, obviously the school thing is probably bullshit, even though, like I said, even to this day, he claims that it's just because the government, like, erases records and all this other stuff. But, like I said, I don't buy that, because there's just too much other stuff. It's not just a case of, oh, we just destroyed your school records. Like I said, there would have been people that you went to school with, you professors, stuff like that, who would have remembered you. You would have been in the yearbook. All this other kind of stuff, and you know, none of that was there.
You're gonna track down all the alumni and go, give me your old yearbook. Here's your other. Here, you take that one.
Yeah, that's what I need. Are they just gonna like switch them out, or like just tear that picture out?
Yeah, people signed that yearbook. Now here's your new yearbook.
Th're gonna go Men in
this
Black,
one doesn't
like
have
every
Bob
single
Lazar
person at that fucking. It's like, that's just not how it's.
Yeah, it's not how reality is.
No, it would just be too much trouble.
If someone wants to shoot you down because you're causing trouble, they don't erase your past. They accuse you of a crime. The best one is some kind of rape.
Or they just have you murdered and make it look like an accident.
Yeah.
Like in a wreck or something. I mean, I'm just saying. Like,
run your ass over.
If they really, really wanted you to shut up, they would make you shut up. And it would look like... they would make it look like a suicide or make it look like an accident.
They don't really have to do that. They call you into the office. They call you into the office and they have a fucking talking with you. You know what I mean? They start throwing here's your mom, here's your dad. They have pictures of everyone you know. Then they fucking, you know what I mean? Then they say we can hurt you or we'll help you. They probably offer you a job to shut the fuck up. That
seems like it would probably be the best
if you keep
solution.
talking, we're going to go after your family. If you shut the fuck up, we'll give you a job for fucking $50,000 a
year.
Yeah,
you don't even have to do anything. You can just sit in the office and look at porn.
That's right.
And then we'll just
shut your fucking mouth.
And we'll just give you like $250,000 a year, and you just sit in there and do nothing.
That's what they would really do.
Around all day. Well, see, that would be a lot more likely to work with me. Like if I knew some top secret information, which
just
I don't,
pay
just
for
for the
your
record.
silence.
Yeah, it's just like if they came to me and said, "Hey, we'll give you $500,000 a year to just sit in an office and do nothing," I'd be like, all right, I'll sign up for that. I won't tell anybody nothing.
You're coming back to work with us at S4. Okay. We're going to give you $150,000 a year just to sit in the office and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yes, sir, I can do that.
Yeah. Free internet.
Yeah, it's
and fucking you retire in 20 years.
I was like, throw in some free coffee and cupcakes, and I'm signing right up for that shit. Yeah. But yeah, so but another thing that's weird, and this doesn't get brought up a lot, but I just saw it like on this timeline thing, is that even though I'm pretty sure that he claimed that he was born in Florida, I believe it was Coral Gables, but the weird thing about it is that he doesn't have a birth record. And then there was a thing about where they couldn't get other people can't get your birth certificate, like, unless it's you, or unless it's, like, your legal guardian or whatever. So then there was, like, some thing about, well, maybe it's hard to get because he was adopted. But the weird thing is that his social security number, I don't know his whole social security number, but just the first 3 numbers, that, like, usually says what state it was issued in. The state that it was issued in was New York. So why would he have said that he was born in Florida if his social security number was issued in New York? Because usually, I mean, I'm not sure how it works exactly, but don't they usually just issue your social security number like when you're born, or do you have to, like, your parents have to do that, right? Like, and most of the time it happens like right after you're born, like they go and register your social security number.
I think so.
I mean, that's how I always thought it worked.
I've had mine my whole life, so I don't remember.
Yeah, me too. It's like I don't remember having to do that. It's like my parents did it when I was born, I would assume. Yeah. So I don't know why. I'm not saying that he's lying about where he's born. I'm just saying it's very odd that he said he was born in Florida, but his social security number is from New York, and his parents like lived in New York State. So I'm not really sure. Like I don't see why he'd be lying about that unless he just like lies about everything just reflexively.
Maybe he didn't know.
Maybe not.
Maybe he was born here.
And like I said, I'm not sure if he was adopted. I heard somebody else say that maybe he was adopted, but I haven't heard like much about that. Maybe he was born here and then like he was adopted by
maybe his parents were
in
from New York and he's born down here,
and then they came and got him, and then they registered his social security
like
number,
that.
or something like that. But yeah, I'm not real sure about that. I just thought that was one thing that when I was reading that timeline, it just came across as really odd to me. I'm like, oh my god, is he lying about what state he was born into?
There's probably that
seems really weird.
Probably some kind of explanation for it.
Yeah. So are we at the hour? Yes, we are. So probably we should take a break at the moment. You probably need more to drink, although I've got quite a bit left.
Okay.
So we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Bob Lazar, about alien spacecraft, about Area 51, all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah. What's that face you're making?
Laughing.
Oh. All right. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
What's up? How you doing, Pook?
Hey, Pookie. She's in the bowl.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's storming outside. It's gonna storm, Pookie. Yeah. Look at that little face. Look at that little face. She's like, stop filming me. She hates it. She hates it when I film her. She's like, I'm not even gonna look at you. I'm not even looking at you right now. Yeah, it's thundering outside.
You love true crime. I love true crime. And I've spent the last 3 years compiling a series of the most intriguing unsolved murders of the 20th century. It's called The Faceless Villain, and Volume 3 is available now. Featuring such fascinating cases as the Ketty murders, the Carrie Babies case, the Frog Boys, the Alcasar murders, and the Inokashira Park dismemberment incident, The Faceless Villain Volume 3 is an involving exploration of unsolved slayings spanning the years from 1980 to 1999. Pick up your copy in print or ebook formats on Amazon, or download the audiobook version from audible.com, and get ready for a chilling journey through modern crime history. All right, we're back talking about aliens, Bob Lazar, Area 51, all that kind of shit.
Yeah, we're getting into his story.
This guy.
Yeah.
Is it all right? Is it? I'm
not gonna fucking bag on Bob Lazar.
Yeah, he seems like a nice man.
It was a good story. It's entertaining. You know
I kind of feel like because we were watching the documentary like a couple nights ago, and I was like, okay, obviously his story is bullshit. Now, do I think that he's just delusional, or do I think that he's just making up a story? Like he made up a story like a long time ago when he was young, and he's like, well, shit, now I'm like locked into this.
That's what I think it is.
And he's like, I just can't go back on it.
He doesn't want to look like a fool, so he's just got to double down, triple down, quadruple down.
Yeah.
And
because he doesn't seem like crazy. He doesn't seem like delusional or,
I think he told
ranty or anything.
I think he told a good tale when he was young and he had to stick with it.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Coming up with something. See, this is why I would never do anything like that.
Yeah.
Because you come up with some crazy ass fucking story like that, like, hey, I worked on reverse engineering like fucking alien spacecraft when you're in your 20s or whatever, and then like 40 years later, people are still asking you about that shit, and then it's like you can't come out. I mean, because his whole career, his whole shtick is like based on him going to like UFO conventions and like everybody talks about him and shit.
Could you imagine what would happen if they were to ask him fucking, you know what I mean, like a year ago or today? Oh, did that really happen? Nah, I was just fucking with you.
I was just fucking with you.
Do you realize how much hate he would get from the entire UFO?
Yeah, he would get like fucking death threats.
For years, I've been believing
they would
you. All the money,
house.
I got so many autographed photographs of you that I spent $40 a pop at the convention. He'd never be able to live it down. He can't back off of it.
This is why.
That's his show.
This is why you shouldn't bullshit. Don't come up with bullshit stories when you're a kid, folks. Because as you see, if you get famous, you're gonna get stuck into that shit forever, and then you're just gonna have to keep on with it.
Yeah.
You can't ever come out and say that you just made it up.
Yeah, and I saw a poltergeist when I was a kid. I'm sticking to the fucking story because I fucking know it happened. But I didn't say that I got hired by a fucking thing to by the government to fucking fix a UFO or figure out how to fucking...
Right. And you're
I just saw something I didn't understand and didn't explain. Everybody else saw it.
And you're not going around like on the fucking lecture circuit or like famous on the Art Bell show or nothing like that.
No, I would say how much money have we made off the fucking poltergeist story?
Hardly any.
1,000?
Well, actually, maybe, probably not even that.
Not even that.
I mean...
Oh, and that was over a period of years.
Yeah, because
So,
we wrote
no.
that book like years ago.
They didn't sell too many copies.
It really didn't.
But we didn't do it for that.
No, we just did it because,
Yeah.
I wrote it because I thought it was an interesting
Yeah.
story. Because
I don't care.
we talked about it a long time, and I was just like, I just thought it was an interesting story.
And I don't care if people don't believe it or not. I know it happened. I
mean-
remembered it. When I called my fucking aunt, and you were there on the phone, and
Yeah.
we started talking about it, and you heard us talking about it, that's when she became a believer. Because they were reminding me of things, and I was, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Well, yeah,
Just
because
saw
they
an
told the
unexplained-
same story that you did without any prompting. Like,
Yeah,
you didn't-
and I hadn't talked to them in years.
and you hadn't talked to them in a long time. Yeah.
And I was a kid at the time. They were the adults at the time. They saw it too. And I had my theories about what it was, and it was just a strange phenomenon. It was a rare phenomenon. I was lucky enough to see it.
Yeah.
And that opened my mind to a lot of this.
But, the thing about it is that, so they interviewed, on this, 2018 documentary with Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy Corbell is in the shit a lot. Also George Knapp is in it a lot. Now, he says, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he's saying that it was like, Bob Lazar was very reluctant to be on the documentary. George Knapp is like, oh, he doesn't like to talk to people and he doesn't like to talk about it anymore, blah, blah, blah. But they did actually get out there and they did get to talk to him and all this other stuff. And what he's saying now, he's like, I'm tired of defending myself. It happened. It's like, I don't care if people don't believe it or not. And he was saying that, well, if anything, it had a negative impact on his life, because I'm sure like people would come out and say, well, you did all these conventions. It's like I have to say though, if that was his house that they were filming in,
Oh, he's doing good.
It's a nice house.
He's doing good. That's his
So-
company, though.
And he has his own company. They've gotten in trouble a bunch of times, but he's got a nice looking wife.
She seems to be a nice woman.
She seems to be a nice woman. Now, something that they didn't bring up on the thing, I'm pretty sure that his first wife, Carol, committed suicide.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
By I saw that on the timeline. What, by doing the garage, the carbon monoxide and the pipe thing?
Homemade gas chamber.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she did that.
Huh.
And I don't know if he was cheating on her or if he had like left her. I think he had left her at that point. I'm kind of fuzzy on the details on that. They don't really bring that up a lot, but I just saw it like on the timeline. I think that's the only place I ever saw it. But he did marry his new wife is called Joy. So him and his wife have been in some trouble with the law. Now, first he was in trouble with the law in 1990. Apparently,
this is a good one.
Apparently, he was a customer of a prostitute. I can't remember what her name is. I saw it like in a Vice article or something.
They call them Johns.
Yeah, he was a John.
Okay.
I don't know if this was when he was married to the first wife or the second wife, or was in between marriages, but I'm not casting aspersions or anything. But so he would frequent this prostitute, and apparently she wanted to open up her own brothel, I guess.
Yeah.
So he either gave her some money or he was like helping her out. Now, I should note that this was, I believe it was in Reno, so it was legal, but for whatever reason he got in trouble. It was for pandering.
Yeah, well, there's certain licensing that you have to do.
Yeah. So there was some kind of like legal, you know what I mean? He was actually, I think the arrest was for aiding and abetting a prostitution ring, but then the charge was lessened to felony pandering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they made him go to like a psychotherapist, and also the judge was like, he had to stay away from brothels. Like he wasn't allowed to go in brothels anymore, like as a condition of the thing. Yeah. So
no dispersions.
He had to do 150 hours of community service.
No dispersions. I don't give a shit. Fucking when as a young soldier in Korea, I also fucking did business with the fucking professional ladies of the evening. It was just a fucking rite of passage that every young fucking soldier has to go through when you go on an overseas tour to the Far East. You know what I mean? It's just part of Army culture. So, I can understand it, but you don't want to make a lifestyle of that. You know?
Probably not the best idea.
Hell no.
Probably not the best idea.
It's not real. It's not a real girlfriend. It's like screwing the waitress. You You know what I'm talking about? That's all it is. You know what I mean?
Well, and you're just paying her to like you, or pretend like she.
No,
likes
they don't
you.
even pretend like they like you.
They don't even pretend.
No.
Well, I guess it depends
No,
on
no.
it depends on the woman.
Yeah.
Some of them probably pretend like they like you, and then some of them don't.
A couple of them did, yeah.
You got to pay extra for that.
I was fucking loaded, man. I don't remember all the details. In Korea, it was legal and it was backed by the fucking Korean government. It was a way of keeping fucking as much of the American serviceman's paycheck inside the Korean economy.
It's good thinking.
This helped fuel their economy
Yeah.
and their war effort.
They're like, look, if they got to be here, at least make them
Yeah.
spend all their money.
The South Korean government fucking would recruit entire armies of young women and train them into speaking English and how to dress and how to be entertaining to go out and make the money in these nightclubs that had like
Yeah.
apartments in the back. And it was like a nightclub. It was like a full-on nightclub. And it was just American servicemen and it was all fucking okayed through the U.S. Army. It's all gone now. But that's what it was back then.
Yeah.
And it was to keep you away from the fucking Korean civilians. They don't want these damn Vikings running through their fucking... Because that's what we were like. We were like fucking Vikings. You know, on the weekends. You know, fucking drunk fucking American young GIs and shit.
Rampaging.
Just rampaging and fucking, you know what I mean? And each one of them a big collection of warrior cults. I was from fucking Camp Greaves up north, and it was like fucking... It was like a barbarian horde, man. You had... When they let us go, once a month. 24-hour pass once a month. So you went...
Y'all are all pent up. You gotta you gotta have all that fun in 24 hours.
If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Camp Greaves is right next to JSA, right there where they hold the peace talks. We were right outside of the DMZ. We were the closest ones to North Korea. And it was a fucking hell of a time, man. It was fucking wild. So if you see where they holding those talks, our Alpha company was at Camp Liberty Bell, which was their security for JSA. JSA guys are the ones that actually did the talks. But we were the backup, the security for JSA. And we were run like a maximum security prison. You only got off one 24-hour pass a month.
Harsh.
So when we were hardcore. So when they let you go, you were like a fucking Viking, man.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
like I said, you only had 24 hours.
24
You gotta
hours.
cram a lot of shit into there.
Yeah.
A lot of drinking, a lot of
And
screwing, a lot of
there was
everything.
no
A lot of
women.
drugs.
on the other side of that, north of the MGM River, there were no females. No even Korean females. It was all men. Not good. Not good.
I mean, unless you're into that.
No. Well, it's fucking. It was the don't ask, don't tell times, but fucking that Camp Greaves was a warrior cult unto itself. It was run like a ranger battalion. It was the 506, man. First and 506. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm drinking too much. When we went downrange, we fucked shit up. You had to send us to a place to keep us occupied, or we'd get in trouble. They knew what they were doing. The Koreans knew exactly what they were doing.
Well, yeah.
They'd
Seen your like before.
So they had whole armies of 17, 18, and 19, because 17 was legal there. 17, 18, maybe to 21-year-old girls trained as, like geisha.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Escorts.
Yeah. Well, they were kind of like geisha, you know what I mean? They'd all be dressed up like a heavy metal outfit, or they dress up, they would dress up as a cowgirl in the club. It was just, everything was the theme. You
Any
know what I mean?
cheerleaders?
No, I didn't see that.
No
I didn't
cheerleaders,
see
okay.
cheerleaders. And, as soon as you walked in, they'd fog up on you. And depending on how you looked, you know what I mean? Fucking, they went for the cute guys first. It's just the way it is,
Well,
it's like anything else.
that's the way the world works.
Because they,
Sorry.
they're going to go for somebody who's easy to work with,
I can work with this.
And fucking, you know what I mean? And then they take you up to their room. It's like fucking Chinese Disneyland when you get in there, man. That shit was beautiful. It was beautiful. Beautiful in there. Fucking fountains and shit in the room. Fucking waterfalls in the room. Dragons and shit.
Heart-shaped tub.
Fucking lights, red lights and green lights and shit. No tubs. Make you take your shoes off before you go in. Look at you like a barbarian because you didn't take your shoes off automatically. Go, oh, I forgot about the shoes.
Well, yeah, shoes are gross and dirty. Yeah. I totally understand that. I don't wear shoes inside the house.
But like I said, it's like screwing a waitress.
What's wrong with waitresses? Waitresses
It's
aren't
not
like
a personal
prostitutes.
relationship.
Yeah.
It's not a personal relationship.
So that's all. It's just like your Waffle House waitress. It's like,
It's
hey,
like a Waffle House
want
waitress.
some pancakes and
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah,
sex?
yeah.
There's another shirt.
And then
Want
you
some
kind of
pancakes
say like, and
sex?
then like he's like, let's go to another club. You know what I mean? Because you didn't want to be around her. Let's start fresh. You had to move. To
Well,
the
isn't
next
that the old? I can't remember who said that, but isn't that the old joke? It's not you're not paying the prostitute for the sex. You're paying her to go away.
one. Yeah,
afterward.
yeah.
I don't remember who said that.
It's kind of like
first,
that.
But yeah,
for her
it's kinda like-
silence.
yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so poor old Bob Lazar got involved with like I said, the brothels are legal there. I believe it's in Reno, Nevada. But there was some kind of like he got in trouble about it, and he wasn't allowed to like go to fucking brothels anymore. Yeah, so then the next time he got in trouble with the law, this was him and his wife Joy this time. This was in 2006. Now, they had opened this company, which is still in operation as far as I know. They have a chemical company called United Nuclear. Now, they don't have it's this little shop. They showed it in the documentary. Oh my goodness.
When she's sneezing.
Pookie sneezed. Well, that's what you get for sniffing all the dusty shit over there. But I guess they don't have any walk-in traffic. You're not allowed to just walk in off the street and go, hey, can I have some uranium? But, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they have a website, which I don't know if they've updated it since I saw the website, but it's very, very 90s CompuServe. I mean, just saying. It looks like an old 90s website. So, but you can buy all these unusual chemicals and shit. Now, he got raided, the business got raided in 2003, and I think what they were doing was he was selling chemicals for making illegal fireworks, and he was selling them over state lines, or he was transporting them over state lines, which is pretty illegal. So he got in trouble for that. He also, because he's really into fireworks and pyrotechnics and stuff like that. Him and a friend of his, George Huff, I think is that guy's name. He might have been on the documentary too. But they even started this whole festival out in the desert called Desert Blast, and it's for pyrotechnics geeks, and they just go out there and just blow shit up for a couple days every year or whatever. But yeah, so he got in trouble for doing that. I believe one time, and then maybe a second time later on, I think that he got in trouble for doing that too. Just selling. The thing about it though is his website, that his really ugly outdated website, you can go there and you can buy all this crazy shit, and it even says on there, or it used to, I don't know if it still says this, but it even said on there that it's that specifically that they weren't gonna report you to the feds if you bought some of this shit. Because right. So he's probably pretty aware that some of this stuff is of questionable legality, the stuff that he's selling. So now another thing that happened, and if you watched the documentary and you didn't look any further into this, it might look like he has some kind of legitimate claim about his alien shit and how the government's after him and everything. So in the documentary, even from the very beginning, Jeremy Corbell, the dude that made the documentary, he gets texts from George Knapp, and he's like, oh my God, right now, Bob Lazar is getting raided by the feds. And the documentary makes it seem like he was getting raided because another claim that Bob Lazar made was that he stole some of this alien element 115 and that the government wants it back. Even though if this element was what they later found out to be Muscovium, there's no way that you could steal it because it would be gone.
It would evaporate.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it flies apart.
I mean, there wouldn't be any of it left.
Yeah.
But that was his claim anyway. And so he's saying that, the government's been trying to, they had him under surveillance and they were, trying to get back what he stole from them. He didn't say it outright, but that's kind of what he was implying. Now, so the FBI and the local police did indeed raid the shop, and they did indeed have a search warrant to search his house. Although I don't believe that they searched the entire house because he did cooperate with the investigation. But unless you believe in super conspiracy theories and it's all a cover-up and everything, it did not have anything to do with Area 51 or aliens or Element 115 or anything like that. What it did have to do with was that in Michigan, I believe it was in 2013, there was a woman. Her name was Janelle Struzel. She was 31, and she was murdered by thallium poisoning, which
Bad shit.
yeah, which remember like that kid, like what the fuck was that kid's name? Graham Young, that one that like poisoned all those people, like Young Poisoner's Handbook and all that kind of stuff. He used thallium a lot. And it's actually called the poisoner's poison because it's really, really hard to detect, and it's really, really toxic in very, very small doses. Now, thallium does have some industrial applications, like they use it in glass making and in electronics and various other things. Now, they think that the suspect, Bob Lazar is not a suspect in this particular murder. However, they do think that the suspect, unnamed, that killed this woman may have purchased the thallium from Bob Lazar, from his website. And that is why there was a search warrant. Because what ended up happening was that, and this is what Bob Lazar told the investigators, and this is like Vice did a whole thing about this. They did a Freedom of Information Act and all that other kind of crap. So they got like all these public records about what the raid was about. So what ended up happening was that, Bob Lazar, he has this, chemical supply shop is essentially what it is. And I guess that he was contacted by this woman whose brother had died. And the brother was, I didn't even know they had these, but he's like an element collector. They're trying to collect every element on the periodic table. And he had a collection like that, this brother, and he died. And so she was like essentially gifting the collection to Bob Lazar's store and like saying, you can sell it. Now, in this collection was some thallium. Now, Bob Lazar has claimed that we did not sell thallium previous to this, but that we got, donated this collection and it did have some thallium in it. So we decided that we were going to sell it. And apparently one of the people that purchased some of this thallium murdered somebody with it, allegedly. And that is what the raid was about. So, or that's what everyone says. And now the FBI were involved, but I believe, like I said, I believe it happened in Michigan. So it was the state police, but they got the FBI involved, not because it was Bob Lazar, because a lot of people didn't even know who the fuck he was, but because the state police were not equipped to deal with this type of poisoning case. Like they hadn't worked with anything with thallium before. And it was, I believe the purchase was made over state lines or something like that. So they got the FBI involved in that. Now, in the documentary, Jeremy Corbell made the claim that he's like, well, a lot of the guys that showed up at this raid said they didn't know who Bob Lazar was and they didn't know anything about aliens or Area 51 or anything like that. But he said that one or two of them repeated something that him and Bob Lazar had talked about, like in a private conversation. So he was trying to imply that they had them under surveillance somehow, or they had been listening to them, like through their cell phones or something like that. But I don't know, because that's only like his say-so. I do kind of feel like, I don't know. I just feel like I said, the whole thing about him having some element 115 and having stolen it, and the government has been like trying to get him this whole time. I'm like, if they wanted to get you, they would have. They know where your ass is. He's not like hiding or anything. He's been on radio shows. He's been on TV. Everybody knows where the business is. You can order shit online from the fucking business. It's like he moved it around a couple times. Like it was in Michigan, and I think it was in New Mexico for a while, and I think he's like moving it to Oregon or something like that. I don't know if that's like to skirt laws or I don't know what he's doing, but he's moving it around. But I don't know. It just seems to me like this is something that a fantasist would come up with. Like I said, I don't think he's delusional. I don't think that, but
what he's doing is that he's making this out to be kind of like they're persecuting me because of what I know about the UFOs.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing.
Yeah, he's trying to make it seem like he's just constantly under surveillance,
and that they're trying to frame him for something,
right? Because
he talked about the UFOs, so which adds credibility to his UFO story. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, because everybody likes to like cry persecution especially when they have like a crazy story like this that they're coming up with.
But that makes sense to do that because then that also gives you cover.
Yeah.
To sell some fucking rare elements.
Yeah.
You can say, "Oh, I didn't do that. They framed me because of my
Yeah.
UFO story."
But I mean, I saw like all like copies of like all the paperwork and all the search warrants and stuff. But the stupid thing is that even though, like I said in the documentary, Jeremy Corbell kind of danced around the fact that it's like, well, they were listening to us like before the raid because one or two of the people, like the FBI agents that were at the raid, because he said it was a shit ton of people, knew what we had talked about, like in a private conversation, like out in the woods or some shit like that. But the thing about it is that the search warrant had been issued like for the house like a couple of days before they even had that conversation. So it's not like, oh, we heard them talking about it in the woods and now we're going to do the raid. They're like, they had already filed for a search warrant before they had that conversation. So I don't think that had anything to do with it. I kind of think that they... Maybe one of the FBI agents said something a little sideways or said something could be misinterpreted, or I don't know, or maybe they just made that up. Because like I said, Jeremy Corbell, he just seems like... I saw this one video, I can't remember the name of the guy that did it. He was like he sounded Australian. But he kind of did like a half hour, 35-minute like takedown of this documentary in particular. And he was kind of like picking on Jeremy Corbell because... that dude's been on like fucking every TV, every like radio show and every podcast and everything. Like I think he was on Joe Rogan. He was on like a bunch of different ones. And he had edited together like him saying the same thing essentially over and over. Like he and he even said this in the documentary too, how he wanted to like weaponize your curiosity. And he said that on every single interview that he was on. So when it's all edited together, it just sounds like he had this kind of like spiel that he was giving, which I guess a lot of people do, but
he's a showman.
Yeah.
Okay, I see these guys as entertainers. I think I see both of them as entertainers.
Yeah.
Because that's how they fucking made their name. Going on these shows, entertaining people who were interested in the UFO scene. That's what this is, if you ask me. I liked it, but I saw it for what it was. As soon as you're fucking 25 and you start to realize that people lie, and, you know what I'm talking about?
And sometimes there's not even a reason for it.
Yeah. As soon as you're 25, I just started to see this as infotainment.
Yeah.
It was like a what if. You know what I mean? I'm like, what if this shit was true? Maybe this isn't true, but maybe there's something kind of like this going on. That's how I used to look at this shit. But I always enjoyed them. Bob Lazar and these guys, and Art Bell, and I just enjoyed it, even though I knew most of his bullshit.
I don't know. For some reason, I can't get into it. Because that's why I could never really get into like a lot of the Art Bell type stuff or...
I go into stories...
Or Ancient Aliens or anything. Like, I just start watching, I'm like, oh, okay. And I just like, my eyes start rolling up and I'm just like, no.
In a way, our show is kind of like that. Except we're trying to tell the truth.
And we're not making anything up.
Yeah, we're trying to be balanced about this shit.
And I mean, even when we talk about paranormal stuff, I'm basically just telling you what other people claim.
Right.
I'm not saying that I think it's true necessarily.
Right. Well, we've both seen some fucking weird shit, though. It just depends on what they say.
Yeah. And that's kind of all you can do.
What they say. Right,
I'm just like, I wasn't there, so I'm not going to say, and it's the same thing with like Bob Lazar. It's like, is it impossible that he was working at Los Alamos and that he worked on like reverse engineering alien technology? It's not impossible. It's just the shit that he came up with. He has specifically lied about a bunch of stuff that can be proven. And so it just seems a lot less likely. He doesn't seem like a particularly credible source. My experience with government work at the fucking federal and state level, I'm going to say no, it's impossible. They would never let that dude near a UFO, ever. It's like, why would... That's another thing. We were talking about this when we were watching the documentary. It's like, I was like, even if he did have the credentials that he said he did, which he doesn't. Right. Even if he did... Like, his story was basically that he just went in for an interview, like, off the street. He was just sending resumes out like a normal person would. Never happened. Ever. Yeah, and he would just get in there, and, like, he goes to an interview, and, like, did he even say, like, before the interview was even over, they were basically like, oh, this is what you'll be doing, by the way, aliens. Yeah, I think it's like, they would not do that. That's what he said. That would never happen. No. Ever. That's what I mean. That would be super extra,
They would be
super
using
top secret.
their top fucking contractors from their top fucking aerospace industries in there fucking with that shit. You know what I mean? Dudes that had been on many top secret programs already. Guys
that were proven,
Yes.
that were tested. They wouldn't just bring in somebody from a fucking resume.
They're gonna
Why
be dealing,
would they do that?
They're going to be dealing with dudes that were fucking working on SR-71 style fucking programs. Guys that were fucking with space planes. Guys that were messing around with shit that breaks treaties like fucking nuclear propulsion. You know, internal and nuclear external combustion engines. Shit like that. Dudes that they know won't talk. That's who's going to be on that.
Yeah, because particularly in something, in an area as sensitive as that, you don't just want somebody that you picked from a resume. You need somebody that you know them. You know what they're, they have some kind of like career in it. You know that they have some proven record of like whatever clearance that they have. They haven't blabbed about this project, that project that they worked on. You have to have somebody with some kind of history that you know where they're coming from.
Let me just say something to the audience. Project Orion was a nuclear external combustion spacecraft. It's been declassified. Most of it has been declassified. There are whole documentaries on it on YouTube that you can watch for free. Go research Project Orion. All right. That was 1960s. All right. They canceled that program because of a treaty with the Soviets. The whole idea of fucking using nuclear propulsion kind of became a taboo subject. It was a violation of that fucking nuclear treaty that we did with them. But if you think we didn't break that treaty, you're a child. That's all I'm going to say. Fucking right, we broke that treaty. And so did the Russians. Yeah. There's all kinds of shit out there that will never see the light of day. They'd be using guys that were working on projects like that.
Yeah.
To be fucking with a UFO because they know those guys won't rat.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I know that there's like all kind of like super top secret operations and stuff like that, but that doesn't follow that they're necessarily alien in origin. They're just governments doing secret shit that they don't want anybody to know about necessarily.
Because it's illegal.
Well, either because it's
treaties.
Illegal or because they don't want like, foreign powers or whatever like finding out about it. They don't want them finding out about like what we're up to over here. So you can understand like why they have that level of secrecy. It's just the problem is that the more levels of secrecy you have, the more people are going to come up with these wild theories about what really is going on back there, when really it's probably something boring, or it's probably like something not boring, but like not alien technology. I mean, I would think. So that's kind of the same thing that I wanted to talk about, because I want to talk a little bit about Area 51 in general and like kind of all of the shit that
and how that shit started. That shit started the Skunk Works.
Yeah.
Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
And in its early days, staffed a lot of the times by convicts and ex-convicts. A lot of people don't know that. And people who couldn't read or write. Did you know that?
Well, that's actually a pretty smart strategy.
Yes, indeed.
Because you can't read any, like,
they can't read any.
If somebody leaves something laying on the desk.
And then you have ex-cons in there who are getting paid in cash, who are totally deniable. You know what I mean? What's he going to do? Go to the newspaper? I used to work on a secret program. They're making a damn space plane. Oh, yeah? Where's your pay stubs? Oh, they paid me in cash.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Convenient.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. So, they have ways of keeping shit secret.
Yeah. And, if they want to keep something secret, they will.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, so the whole thing about Area 51, and I think the sad thing about, I don't know if it's sad, but the thing about Area 51 is that you say that, and I think everybody's mind, the first thing they go to is aliens.
Yeah, no.
But
spy planes.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to do with aliens at Area 51. I really don't. Is there top secret shit going on there?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, provably there was top secret shit going on there because it's been declassified now. So we know that there was shit going on there. Do I think there's aliens or alien bodies or anything like that? No, I do not.
No.
I just don't think that...
And here's another thing. That area is old hat. Everybody knows where that is.
Yeah.
They're going to be doing some stuff there, but a lot of the real hardcore shit's not going to be done there.
Well, yeah, because everybody knows about
Everybody
it.
knows where it is.
If they want to keep something really secret, they have to go like someplace nobody knows about.
Somewhere out to sea. We own a lot of islands. That's one place I'd look.
Yeah.
We could make artificial islands too. That's another thing. Huge barges. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would be my first go-to.
Right. Barges where you could land a rocket.
Yeah.
And yes, you can land a rocket. They're doing that now. You can land a rocket just like out of the 1950s. They do it just up the street here, SpaceX.
Yeah. just like those 1950s sci-fi
Where the
movies
rocket
where
lands
where they just ran the film in reverse.
Yeah. But they've been working on that a long time. Now they can do it.
They're like, we finally achieved, what they had in every B science fiction movie, just by reversing the film.
The Project Orion nuclear propulsion spacecraft was going to be launched from a fucking gigantic barge out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Because it just rode on a huge fucking wave of superheated fucking nuclear plasma as it fucking launched itself out of the damn atmosphere. It was the size of a 30-story building. It weighed what a battleship weighed. That's how fucking massive it was. It was solid steel and concrete. It was not a spacecraft as you would imagine it today. It would be like launching a damn battleship or a skyscraper. That's how it was fucking... And the engine was basically a Coke bottle machine.
Yeah.
You know, the Coke bottle bottling machine? That's what the engine was. It threw out 3 atomic bombs per second out of the back of it. And it just fucking... It made a modern rocket fucking feeble compared to what they were going to do. Man, it could get to fucking Mars in just like a couple months. It could get to Saturn in a few months and come back. They had technology far in advance of what you'd think. And it was basically 1930s technology, aside from the atomic bombs.
Yeah.
But that was only 40s. And they knew about the atomic type shit in the 20s and 30s. They were already theorizing it. But the Coke bottling engine was like 30s technology. Imagine what they could do now.
Yeah, you probably don't even want to imagine because there's all kind of crazy shit going on now, probably.
Yeah. So, if I were going to do some weird fucking secret shit, it'd be out on a barge somewhere deep in the Pacific Ocean. And you'd be controlling other people's spy satellites because they couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Or out somewhere like on a place like Bikini Atoll.
Well, that's where they did all the
atomic testing.
Yeah.
Or you do it in a friendly country where nobody's watching. Somewhere down in Uruguay or Paraguay.
Everybody look over there. We're going to blow some shit up.
Yeah, Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Uruguay, Paraguay, maybe Australia. Something like that.
Go in the fucking outback.
Or I think there's some islands around that area.
Yeah.
North of Australia. That'd be a good place to look. If I was a U.S. contractor, I'd be getting permission to work in a place like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about Area 51, which, I mean, that's not its official name, really. It's actually called Groom Lake or Homey Airport. They first bought the land, the Air Force, rather. They bought it back in the 50s, and it was initially for the development of the U-2 spy plane, which at the time flew at a higher altitude than any other plane. And obviously they wanted a secret place to like develop it and fly it and test it and everything like that without the Soviets finding out about it because it was during the Cold War. So that was why the site was first established, why it was top secret and everything.
But they still knew about it, though. That was the thing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's
the
like
Soviets still knew about it.
You can be like as secretive as you want, but see, like the other government, they have smart people too, and it's like they have secret shit too, so it's like they know what you're up to.
We would fly the U-2 over them, and they'd fucking shoot missiles at it.
We see that.
Yeah, the missiles couldn't reach it, but they would try to shoot it down. They eventually did get a missile that would reach it. And they knew where it was landing and everything. They knew the timetables. They knew what time it took off. They knew.
Yeah, like I said,
they're not dumb.
People aren't stupid.
Yeah.
And it's like people can put 2 and 2 together, especially if you have like another, and these are all scientists too, and like engineers and stuff. So they're like, well, if it was me, how would I do it?
Yeah, they knew where it was coming from. There's just nothing they could do about it.
Right.
So, but that kind of marked the end of fucking secret bases out in Groom Lake. You could test shit there, but everybody knew you were testing shit out there. There just wasn't anything they could do about it.
Yeah, and I mean, The thing about it, I was watching a thing about it today, and they're like, yes, some of it's remote. They use it as, a testing range, training range, shit like that. Usually working on spy planes, other types of drones, experimental aircraft, that kind of stuff. But they're like, everyone knows where it is. There's a fence. There's a thing that says Area 51. It's kind of hard to get to. Yeah. Like, there's not like a, real road. It's like a little road.
It's got its own airport, and you got to fly in you got to get into a plane, and it flies it to that Groom Lake.
But it's only, like 80 miles from Las Vegas or something?
Yeah, and everybody flying on that plane, that's how they get to work. They don't drive to work. They fly on that plane every day.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool when you think about it. So it's very secure. You can't drive to work.
Yeah.
They fly into work.
Yeah, they don't let anybody in there. No. Although I was reading that, like, what they do is they have, like, many concentric rings of security. Yeah. They're like, normally what they would do if somebody, like, kind of breaches the perimeter but doesn't look like they're doing anything nefarious, like they just maybe wandered onto the land without realizing or whatever, they're like, they won't necessarily do anything to you, but they'll just, like, keep you under surveillance the whole time to make sure you're not up to any shit. And they're like, if you just kind of wander back off the shit, then it's fine. They're not going to do anything about it. But if you still keep, like, coming in there, you basically get, like, a few layers of, like, hey, get off the fucking land. Hey, to warn them, the helicopters will come. And then if you get, like, far enough in there, they'll just shoot your ass. You know what I mean? And they have signs, like, posted, like, that saying as much.
Security contractors in there.
Yeah, so because of that, and like I said, because this was established during the Cold War and they were working on a bunch of experimental aircraft that they didn't want anybody to know about, because there was so much secrecy and security, like, surrounding the base, and also because there was a lot of UFO sightings around this area once the base was opened, all of these rumors started swirling in the late 50s that they had aliens in there, or they had, like, captured aliens, or, like, working on some type of alien technology, or, that there were aliens in there, like, working with us, like, establishing, various things. And so I think that is kind of where that idea came from. And even, isn't there even a thing with, that the quote unquote, like, aliens that crashed in Roswell, the little bodies and everything, that's where they took them to Area 51, that's where they are?
Yeah, that's what they said, but we got to do a program on that.
What, the Roswell?
On the Roswell thing.
We probably should, yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting story.
It is.
Do I think it was extraterrestrials? Probably not.
No, I don't think so either. I think it was top secret, but I don't think it was aliens. Same with Area 51.
Yeah, if it was, the story we have wouldn't match that. In other words, it's a bullshit alien story to cover up a real alien story. If it was aliens. But chances are I don't think it was. I think it was a Project Mogul balloon.
I do too.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like, I don't know. I was watching something else about that, that whole thing earlier. And, there's like, this guy that said he used to work there, on his deathbed, he said, no, it was for real aliens. I wasn't allowed to say anything and stuff. But you can't just take someone's word for shit, especially, like, when they're dying. They could be suffering from dementia or whatever.
Or fucking with you. They're trolling.
Or fucking with you, because that would be hilarious. Yeah. Like, as your last fucking act on Earth, like, when you're dying, it's like, by the way, it was aliens the whole time. Yeah. I mean, how fucking
Or it
funny
could have
would
been
that
that
be?
he thought it was.
Yeah, that's another thing too. And it's like a lot of the shit that that we talk about, like a lot of the alien abductions and ghosts and everything like that. I'm not calling all of these people's liars. I'm just saying that they could have been mistaken, or they could have convinced themselves that that's what they saw.
Or somebody else convinced them.
Or someone else convinced them, because, look, it's pretty easy to plant a suggestion in someone else's head. Especially when someone's a kid, Yeah. Or young or vulnerable.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and time is kind of erased.
Yeah, your memories are not as good as you think they are. So if somebody keeps telling you that, hey, this happened this way, after a time, you'll probably start to remember it that, like, and they've done psychological studies where the more you repeat, like, a memory, even if it was something that really happened to the person, but you change some details, the more you repeat that, the more they will begin to like form their own memories of it happening that way. And after a time, they will only remember it the way you told them, even though that's not the way it happened.
Yeah, yeah. Truth, a lot of time truth and reality is a lot of times just kind of in the way you describe it too. You can characterize things as being a certain way, and you can make that real in your own mind. And then another person can characterize it in a completely different way, and they've made it real in their minds. And really what it is that the truth of the matter might have been more gray instead of black or white. It depends on the open to interpretation. Any occurrence.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, too, that, like, say, for example, and I've heard about, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm remembering the vague details of this, but they've done studies where, for example, let's say that there was a kid and they had like a birthday party and they got like a particular present for that birthday. And it was videotaped, like their family videotaped that birthday party. Now later on, they start telling that kid, hey, you remember that 5th birthday party you had? You got this present. You got a box of Legos. And you keep telling them that. And then later they remember getting a box of Legos. But you show them the video and actually they got Star Wars figures. They didn't get a box of Legos. Yeah. And they will watch that video and be like, that is wrong.
Right.
I got a box of Legos. Because they've been told that so many times that they completely like replaced the memory of the actual event, which was videotaped, with a memory that was essentially implanted.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, here's something to fucking blow your mind. No matter how old you are now, let's say you're 20 years old or older. Every one of your cells that was in your body when you were 10 is gone and dead. You're a replacement of yourself by this time. I don't know how memory is passed on. All those brain cells have been replaced by other cells by that time. Every bit of you is gone.
It's almost kind of like a little brain cell relay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like one of the brains is like, I'm dying.
I'm dying. Here, take this.
The memory.
Yeah.
It's not as good as it was originally, but here. You take it and run with it.
So really,
that's how I think of it.
When you look back to yourself fucking 30 years ago or
that's
20
not
years,
even you.
It's not even really
on
you.
A cellular level.
On a cellular level, every one of those cells is gone.
I mean, you still got your same DNA and shit. Yeah. Like all your cells have your DNA in them, but still. Yeah,
it's like an old clone of you that's dead.
Well, it's essentially like, and I've seen it compared to this, it's essentially like making crappy Xerox copies of yourself.
Over and over.
And then, you make a copy, and then you copy that copy, and then you copy that copy, and it gets crappier and crappier. That's what it's
You're a shitty copy of yourself.
You've only got like the original when you come out as a baby, and then like every time it's like you just keep copying, and then essentially when you're like 80 or 90 years old, it's just this shitty like fucking all pixelated and shit. So even though, like I said, there had been shit going on at Area 51 since the 50s, so I think the people that lived around there, and you know, because they had seen like weird lights in the sky, and they knew that there was some kind of military presence, it was fences and everything like that, so kind of all these rumors grew up that there was like some weird shit going on there. Now, the government didn't help matters by like denying everything up until, I believe it was 2013, right? That was like the first time they actually were like, yeah, you got us. Area 51 is there, and we've been doing like top secret shit there the whole time, and everyone's like, yeah, duh, tell us something we don't know. But they did finally like say what it was. But I do feel like a lot of people have come out and said what maybe, because like I said, there was a lot of, you know, quote unquote UFO sightings like around there, but they didn't really start until the base opened. And I've heard like several pretty credible people say that they thought it was probably some kind of particle beam thing, like generator, that was making like all these weird like plasma lights in the sky that people were seeing like out in that area. It wasn't like UFOs or anything. And also some of it obviously might have been some of the weird planes that they were flying, because they didn't do work on the stealth bomber and all that kind of shit there. Was that at Area 51, the stealth?
Yeah.
They were working on? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that a few, because I remember hearing a few like UFO reports right around the time before that the stealth bomber became like public knowledge. And the description that they gave sounded essentially like a stealth bomber.
There was one from like the very early 80s where a woman said she saw something fly over her. She was out in the country. Came over the crest of a hill. She was down in the valley. It flew over. She saw it head on coming towards her pretty much. Lights on it, black. And she drew it spot on frontal view of fucking...
So she wasn't crazy. She did see something. It just wasn't an alien spacecraft. It was a stealth fighter.
Yeah.
So people were seeing things. So I think that
Yeah.
a large amount of like, you know, UFOs that were seen around that time period were probably either just particle beam, like stuff from the particle beam generator, or were, you know, experimental planes that people weren't familiar with.
Well, a lot of them were, but there were also sightings that, look, a good UFO sighting would be like the Tehran UFO. That was a good one. The Upan sightings, which is in France. Phoenix Lights. You know, there are some good fucking sightings
Yeah.
out there. But Lazar, I consider Lazar to be an entertainer.
Yeah, because a lot of, like I said,
Yeah.
a lot of the claims that he makes just can't be verified. It's like,
I don't want to call him a liar. A liar is a dude in a bar telling you some shit. Okay? I consider Lazar to be a fucking entertainer. He did a circuit and he went on shows and he told you a fucking story that was entertaining. It was infotainment of the era.
and people do like to hear about, I mean, like I said, it's not, I mean, probably the reason we haven't done like a lot of UFO shows, because you probably are more into like UFOs and alien
I
kind
love
of stuff
UFOs, yeah.
than I am. It's like, for some reason, I don't know, for some reason I don't find those stories like all that compelling. Not because I don't think they're extraterrestrials, it's just, I guess because a lot of the stories are just kind of like samey, and then most of the pictures, or if they have videos or something like that, like none of them really look like anything all that exciting. And so I don't know, I guess it's just kind of like, it's the same reason I'm not like really excited about Bigfoot stories or anything like that. I'm not saying that there's not Bigfoots or Big Feet or whatever you want to call them. There might be, but I just feel like most of the sightings of them are probably bullshit, or, you know, not people making it up, but just misattribution. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's there's a documentary on YouTube. I think it was called Beyond Belief. And you can find it. It's in pieces on YouTube. It's a forgotten documentary. It's really good.
What year was it from, do you know?
90s. The cops, 2 different police forces saw a fucking flying triangle.
I remember seeing
Remember that one?
Yeah.
And he even got a photograph of it, but all you see is the lights on it. One cop did.
Yeah.
And the cops were all calling each other. They got all the recordings of the cops saying which way it was going. You know what I mean? I'm going to go there and see if I can see it. And it was a flying triangle. I'm not sure it was extraterrestrial, though.
That's what I mean. It's like a lot of them. I'm not saying that like all these people are nuts or they don't know what they're looking at. I think some of them are seeing weird shit, because I've seen weird shit in the sky too, and I still don't know what it was. I don't think it was an alien spacecraft.
I mean, it was a flying triangle. It had a fucking awesome light array on it. But that light array, I could explain that as a urban camouflage.
Yeah.
If you have a military aircraft, why not disguise it as an alien aircraft?
See, that's what I would do.
Because that way,
No one
you
would believe
report
you.
it and nobody believes you.
Right.
It's because you can't hide it. You're gonna see it.
Yeah.
So you might as well dazzle the fuck out of somebody. And when you tell them it had lights all over it, it was an alien spacecraft, they're like, get the fuck out of
Yeah,
here.
they'd be like, they would just think you were a nutcase.
Right. So
It's pretty genius.
it's like a deception.
Yeah, when you think about it.
What I think it was, this is my theory, based on other things that I heard from guys that are really into this and into aviation history. I think there might have been a series of aircraft from the Reagan era. Okay, you remember the Star Wars SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative? That's to shoot down incoming ICBMs.
Yeah.
Back in those days, man, you needed some high-powered fucking radars to do that kind of shit. All right? I think if you took a solid body Zeppelin, huge, Zeppelins can be heavy lift. They're very heavy lift.
Yeah.
You can put a huge radar array into something like that and move it around to where needed to look over the horizon for incoming ICBMs. You disguise it like a UFO, and you don't tell anybody you have it. Why? Because it violates a treaty.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's nuclear powered. All right?
Yeah.
You have a nuclear reactor generating steam, driving a fucking electric generator, and it's silent, using inducted fans. It can move itself around silently. It's remote controlled. Nobody in it. It can stay on station for months without having to land. Like a nuclear submarine.
Yeah. Except in the sky.
Except in the sky. With a huge radar array in it. That's why it's so big. You know what I mean? That's what I think it was.
See, I think that's actually a lot more likely than an alien spacecraft. I think it's something we made, and like you said, if they were trying to keep it a secret, just for whatever reason,
like a UFO.
make it look like a UFO,
So if
that
somebody sees it, they don't believe it.
yeah, either they don't believe it, or when they report it, everyone just thinks they're a nutcase.
Full of shit, right?
Right, because they're like, "Hey, I saw a UFO."
It's psychological warfare.
Yeah, that's essentially what it's. But it's actually kind of genius when you think about it. I mean, it's a really good strategy.
That's like some shit I would do.
Yeah.
So,
because like you said, you can't hide it, especially if it's something like really big, and for whatever reason, if whatever project you're doing, it has to fly over like a populated area.
It's a half a mile wingtip to wingtip because it's a solid-bodied Zeppelin.
Yeah.
With a giant radar emitter in it that requires a lot of power. So it has to be nuclear. And if the Soviets find out, you're fucked because you're violating the treaty. So you make that motherfucker, you dress it up like a UFO with a bunch of LED lights in it. Give it a dazzling display.
Yeah.
So when you tell people about it, you look like a fool.
Yeah. And then it's like, even if it does get on the news, it'll just be in one of those news of the weird sections.
Yeah,
and everyone will be like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I think it was.
Big fucking aliens.
Some of the flying triangles, I think that might be what it is. If this video gets censored, it's because that's what it was.
Because you got it right.
Yeah.
God damn it, he guessed.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that was like, I don't think it's going to get censored just because of that. Because that was one of the things that they say about Area 51, like among many other things, like with the shit that's going on there, is that back in the day, they used it for Star Wars, like the SDI energy weapons and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that was one of the rumors that was circulating, that was maybe one of the things they were working on there.
SDI.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that now.
Yeah, so it's
laser, weaponized laser.
Right, see, that kind of stuff isn't crazy, and I think that's probably what they're working on now. Like you said, drone technology, lasers, all that kind of stuff. Because I don't really know, I don't think they do a lot of aircraft anymore, and as far as I know, it does seem like UFO sightings around that area have declined since the heyday.
Manned aircraft are on the way out.
That's what I mean.
Drones
so it's like, I think
better.
that's why people aren't really seeing them like they used to, because I think most of the old ones they were seeing were experimental aircraft.
And when you think of these Predator drones that can just fire missiles, that's actually old hat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The next wave of drones are going to be drone fighters that can take down any fucking manned aircraft. They can outfly any manned aircraft, carrying weapons on them, or they have fucking very sharp leading edges and they can fly through and ram a fucking manned aircraft because it's a drone.
Yeah.
They were going to ram manned aircraft with manned aircraft back in the days. Fucking
I would not want to be that man.
Yeah, I think it was Northrop. Northrop made a flying wing called the Flying Ram, and it was a.
They're like, who draws the short straw to fly that fucking thing?
It was a little bitty jet. It's a little bitty jet. It was just a flying wing, and you laid down, and it was very narrow with an armored front leading edge. It was before guided missiles. This is back in the 50s. They had guided missiles, but they weren't any good.
Right.
So you fucking launched this thing as point air defense. You flew after a fucking incoming nuclear bomber, and you ran right through it, cut its tail off.
Can you imagine having to be that
shit.
guy? Some kamikaze shit right
Badass
there.
shit. Well, it was armored.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're only talking about, most of these aircraft are aluminum. So as long as your aircraft is sharp and strong on the leading edge, you could go through it.
Yeah.
And it's one man and you're laying down. Worst case scenario, you could bail out. You got time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you lose control. Because you're doing this at high altitude. So it would work. Better than a missile of the day.
You need some fucking brass balls to do that kind of shit.
Well, you got to stop an incoming a nuclear bomber.
Yeah.
One man giving his life to save a city.
To save a whole city.
Yeah, so that was the thinking.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, SDI was supposedly going on Area 51. Also, Roswell alien bodies, obviously. We should do a whole thing about fucking Roswell and alien autopsy and all that kind of shit.
Oh, alien autopsy. I remember that came out, man. That thing.
Man, everybody was talking about that shit.
But, I watched it over and over again. I rented it.
Did you really?
They had it at my fucking video rental store back in the day. I picked it apart.
It was huge.
After I watched it like a couple times, I'm like, nah.
Well, they weren't. The people doing the autopsy
Yeah.
Did not know how to do an autopsy.
Yeah, the more I
I'm
thought
not
about
a pathologist, and I know that's not how
They're
you
just
do an
pulling some
autopsy.
shit out. Yeah.
It's just pull this out and throw it in the fucking
Yeah.
scale. That's not. They're not measuring anything. They're not fucking. They're not doing anything that you would do if you were autopsying an actual alien. You know what I mean? It's just
more like a butcher.
yeah.
like a
They were just
butchery.
doing that.
Like a
It was
butchery.
like a horror movie more
Yeah.
than like a scientific like autopsy. I've seen like human autopsies like on TV and stuff. And they don't do them like
I was
that.
making excuses for it. I was like, well, they don't really know anything about alien anatomy, so they're just doing the very basics.
They're just like reaching in there and going, what the hell is this shit?
It's not how they would do it.
No.
That's not how they would do it.
No.
They would start with at a cellular level. They do a lot of X-rays, and they wouldn't want to cut into it first.
Well, yeah, why would you do it? Because once
Yeah.
you cut into it, that's
You're
like
gonna
all she
ruin the
wrote. You're going to
cadaver.
ruin it.
Yeah,
You got to do everything you can do before you
Yeah,
like
before you
start
do that.
cutting it up.
right.
It's just, and they would be taking like little samples
Right.
of like all the tissue, like all the
Right.
different parts, and
And they would have photographed the fuck out of it from every fucking angle.
Yeah.
And they would have done all kinds of. They would have actually taken microscopic shots of it. You know what I mean? With a microscope, in its eyes, everything.
yeah, you
know.
get like the eye juice, the blood, and
Yeah.
it's like you get all
They would
like the
take samples
fluids,
from
everything.
everything. Right.
I mean, you'd think.
They would want to know everything about it.
I'm
And
just saying, if I was going to make an alien
and
autopsy
it would
fake,
be
it
like-
would be better than that one.
I went to a good high school. We did fucking vivisection and dissection of frogs. Okay.
We did frogs,
And turtles.
pigs, sharks.
The cats. They were already dead.
Well, yeah,
The cats and the turtles and shit like that. The turtle
Yeah.
was alive. We did vivisection.
we didn't
on
do. We
turtle.
did a live crab, but I think the
Right.
turtle was dead.
The turtle had its frontal lobes had been destroyed. The professor stuck a needle through it, so it didn't need anesthesia. It was mindless, but it still had its autonomic system. It still was
Yeah.
breathing and shit. It stayed alive for a week while we were
That's horrifying.
slowly opening it up.
Yeah.
You know, you could close it back up and it would start to heal. Weird.
That
It
is
was
pretty
because
weird.
it was alive. But they'd be doing stuff like that to it. Be real gentle, you know,
Yeah.
with it, and it would be a real precision procedure, and that's not what they were showing.
Yeah, it just seems really half-assed.
Yeah.
Like I said, it seemed like a horror movie conception of like what an
Right.
alien autopsy would be, not an actual alien autopsy. Not quite as fucking cheesy as that fucking mermaid documentary they're trying to pass
Oh,
off
yeah, it's
on
fine.
fucking Discovery.
A real alien autopsy, they wouldn't have removed anything. They just would have cut into it and moved things out of the way and then put it back in, you know, when they were done with it and moved on. And they would have been taking photographs every step of the way
Yeah.
and taking samples, and then they would have froze the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just something about it rubbed me the wrong way. And also, I had like
And there wouldn't be 2 people in the damn operating room. There'd be about 30.
yeah. Well, and another thing too is like I was reading something about it a while back, and they said like a pathologist came on and said, well, the guy that's doing the autopsy is not even holding the scalpel correctly, like the way a
Yeah.
pathologist would hold it,
Yeah.
or even the way a surgeon would hold it. It's like he's doing it wrong. So these are clearly just like actors
Yeah.
that just came in there and did that.
There'd have been 30 dudes watching that, and they'd all be talking about it every step of the way.
Yeah.
It would have taken a long time.
It's just funny that you can do something that half-assed and like, 50% of people will like buy it like it's a
Yeah.
real thing without really thinking about it. I guess people don't really think about stuff. They're just like, oh, okay.
It was another time.
Yeah, that too. Although,
was
like I
made
said,
for
some
another time.
some people fell for that mermaid shit too, and that was only
My dad fell for the mermaid.
that was only a couple years ago.
saw this thing down.
I'm not going to talk about it.
I saw this program. It looks like the mermaids might be real.
I was like, what?
Went back thousands of years. Thousands of years they knew the mermaids were there.
You're for that.
Even ancient Egypt knew about the mermaids.
I was like, what? What are you talking about?
You're like, Dad.
Yeah. It's like, what?
That's what they call a mockumentary.
I didn't know what he was talking about. We watched it, and I fucking remember I called him back. I said, Dad, I saw that shit, man. That wasn't real. It wasn't. I said, no, man. He didn't know what a mock.
He called him up
Yeah,
and told him that it
he
was
didn't know.
He didn't know that there's like a whole genre that's called mockumentary where it's supposed to look like a real documentary, but it's not a real documentary.
And not only can old people not handle TV, they can't handle TV. What makes you think they can handle the internet? Okay, they're very confused. Just watch the news. You see how they'll fall for the news too. Fucking, it's not. They think it's the same news as it was from 20, 30 years ago. It's not.
It's authority.
They're into authority figures. And
I guess that worked on people back then. It's like that's what kind of like cracks me up about all those old all those old educational shorts they show, because they show them on like MST and Riff Tracks and stuff, and it's just like how funny how they have some authoritative. A lot of them are narrated by Beaver's dad. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Well, there's actually there's a lot of psychology behind it. Authority takes stress off of people.
Well, yeah, because
because somebody else is dealing with it.
They're taking the responsibility. Right. And so, like, if something messes up, it's not your fault.
That whole generation loved authority. It made them feel better because they didn't have to worry about it.
They're doing it. They got it under control.
They handle it. I'm just going to be over here.
They know the experts are on it.
Going to be over here with my blue steak and my highball. I'm just, like, not going to
And they were into fucking, titles. You have a title in front of your name and shit.
They know what they're doing.
They don't. They don't. The doctors and scientists can be wrong just like everybody else.
Well, everybody can be wrong.
They're all wrong.
You know what I mean? It's like, it depends on what your area of expertise is. Like I said, some people believed Bob Lazar because it was erroneously reported that he was a physicist. He's not.
He looked like one.
He's not.
He looked like one.
And he sounded like when he talked, he kind of sounded like if you didn't know anything about, if you just had, like, say, a high school understanding of physics or chemistry or whatever, he did sound like a smart guy and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. But people that actually know about those kind of things, like, immediately were like, no, he's full of shit. Like, he has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But
over the years, I'll tell you what, the institutions have kind of declined. I mean, there are a lot. But really, we can go back hundreds of years. Professionals and people with authoritative titles have had a piss poor track record. If you take into account history, you know what I mean. There were people that believed all kinds of crazy things that had titles.
Well,
and 100 years from now, they're going to look at our scientists like they were a fucking.
Well,
joke.
And the thing too is that because there's so much information, there's so much knowledge. And really, only one human brain can only hold so much of that. So anytime you stray outside of your area of expertise, you are just as prone to being mistaken about something as anyone else is that doesn't know anything about that. Yeah. So even if somebody is a physicist, say, and,
you
they
can't ask him about economy.
Well, they could be completely brilliant in that field.
But that's it.
But if you ask them about something else, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're automatically going to be wrong about other things or right about other things. They're just as likely to be right or wrong about it as anyone else is, because that's not their area of expertise. Right. That's all.
That's another thing that we're dealing with. A modern education produces specialists. And specialists are they're a specialist at their specialty. Old educations, like back in the 1700s and the 1600s, they were more generalists. They could combine a lot of things together. But now there's too much knowledge. You can't do that. Because, back in the days, you could have a guy who's a statesman. He knew about biology and physics and chemistry. But it was 1700s
biology. Remember back in the old days when, like, you had dudes like, Charles Darwin and stuff, and they knew, like, everything.
They knew everything.
Because there wasn't really
a whole lot to know.
Much to know. Right. I can't imagine everyone knowing everything nowadays.
You could know all of man's knowledge back in the 17 and 1800s.
So it was maybe like a dozen books or so.
Yeah, right.
I'm exaggerating, but
but it did create a certain kind of generalist intelligence.
Yeah.
They could combine a lot of fucking fields together. And they could come up with some pretty cool shit because they could think in a bunch of different directions.
Yeah.
Nowadays, a specialty is so specialized.
Well, because there's so much.
There's so much. You almost end up making an idiot savant.
Yeah. Which that's the thing. I don't know if there's any way to avoid that because we know so much nowadays.
I might, for instance, I'm like a dumbass, okay?
But for instance, I'm a dumbass.
I'm a dumbass. But when I lived in Boston, I would go to the clubs. And a lot of the guys that would show up to the club and shit would be from MIT and Harvard and fucking Tufts University. And they were very fucking specialized in what they did. They were fucking geniuses. But only in that fucking field.
Right.
if you fucking knew what they were like in person, in their personal lives and in fucking everyday life, they were fucking dumbasses. Dumbasses. Like they didn't know anything about women.
Yeah.
You know, or how people worked. They might have a fucking experiment going on the space shuttle or up on Skylab or some shit like that. You know what I mean? But they're fucking dumb when it comes to people, or when it comes to something outside their field. But they were geniuses.
Yeah.
So that personal experience really kind of taught me not really to listen to them. Only when it's about something they know about.
Well, I think that's kind of a general good rule. It's like I'll listen to you if that's what your area of expertise is.
I mean, they would ask me about stuff, and this dude's a genius, but they knew.
But nobody can be a genius.
But they're not a genius in everything.
And like I said, especially nowadays, like you said, back in the old days, it was pretty. You know, I'm not saying it was easy, but it was a lot easier.
It was easier
to be like a lot more broadly educated because we didn't know as much. You know what I mean? So there wasn't... I was thinking about this. It's weird. This is the kind of shit that I think about when I'm like just walking around in the morning. I was thinking, you know, even when I graduated, and I graduated from high school in 1990, and I was thinking that it's like that's been, you know, however many years that's been, 30 years or whatever, and people that are graduating this year, it's like they have 30 extra years of history, of science, of everything like that, on top of what I had to learn. And it's like they're not giving them any more time to learn that. You know what I mean?
It's why AI is going to dominate.
Probably.
Only sentient computers are going to be able to deal with this
Who
shit.
the hell can keep track of all
Can't
that
keep
shit?
track of it.
I can't keep track of all that shit.
That's why it's going to end up being like something out of Dune, where machines will control man, and men who control machines will control man. That's eventually what will happen. That's what's happening now.
Because, I mean, I like to think
Zuckerberg dictating what reality is. Men controlling machines and the machines that control man. Yeah, it's going to be just like out of... I say fuck all this shit. Let's perfect human ability. Just like out of Dune, man. And the new Dune's coming. Y'all going to love it. I think the new Dune's going to be good.
Well, it's the same guy that directed fucking Blade Runner 2049.
I'm hoping it's going to be good.
And I love that movie.
From what I'm hearing, it's going to be good.
So, I mean, I've heard good things. I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. At least somebody's fucking doing it.
Yeah.
That seems like they're into it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, what I was saying is that I like to think that, I mean, within a fairly narrow, like, I have a lot of general interests. And, you know, I'm very widely read on a wide variety of topics. You know, I'm really into like science and music and art and all the art history and all this other kind of stuff. So I like to think that I have like an okay, like general education about various things, but it's like, even me, I kind of feel like, and this is something I think about a lot too, because there is a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which I'm sure most people have heard of, where it's like, if you only know a little bit about something, but you think you know everything, like the less you know, the smarter you think you are, type of thing. Yeah. That's actually a real thing, and a lot of people have that. I think people that are actually smart or actually educated or actually well informed know how much they don't know, so they tend to be more circumspect about. It's like, look, man, it's like I know a little bit about this, that, and the other, but it's like that's like a whole other thing, and I don't know anything about that. Whereas it's easier if you only know like a couple things about something to think, oh, I just know everything about everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, it sounds contradictory, but it really does kind of like come across like that.
I try to stay focused on people. I like to understand people and human nature and systems and human systems, how one system interacts with another. Because I think life is centered around people, not so much technology and, you know what I mean? So if you can understand people and what drives people, then I can predict what can happen in the world. That's the way I see things.
I mean, it's an interesting... I just feel like... Because I feel like we're kind of in an unprecedented time where, you know, we have sort of this interaction between human and technological advances that we never really had before. And so I don't know, like, how it's going to go. I'm not pessimistic about it. I'm not optimistic about it either. I'm just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. It's interesting to me. It's interesting how it's going to go.
I don't think AI and robotics is in man's best interest ultimately.
Probably not.
I think it has to be fucking stopped. or you know what I mean? You have to freeze it at a level that we can all deal with. And then I think we need to fucking re-educate mankind to learn to find your own human potential. We have to admit what human beings are, and we have to put human beings to good use. And from my experience, what a human is made for is a human is made for exploration. We all need to be exploring the fucking stars. That's ultimately what we need to be doing. If we just stay here on this fucking planet, we're just gonna fucking fight over fucking bullshit fucking... We're gonna fight over fucking bullshit. And we're gonna fucking destroy civilization. We need to get these motherfuckers off the planet and build another world.
I would volunteer to go to another world as long as it was nice and quiet and there was not that many people.
A lot of these hostile, badass motherfuckers that are causing trouble here, the reason why they're doing that is because they're bored. They need to be out fucking like they used to do back in the age of exploration. They need to be on a damn ship exploring the world. And that would take a lot of the problems away.
Just put them on a fucking spaceship. Here,
Put them
go.
on a spaceship. You guys are going to fucking go and check out this other star system. You're going to sleep for fucking 30 years. You'll wake up, you'll be there.
Go check out Bob Lazar's claims. Go over there to the Zeta Reticuli or whatever.
Once you guys
check out where those fucking aliens are.
Once you guys just fight the aliens and set up the fucking colony. All right? And a lot of the problems will fucking vanish. Because they'll be doing what human beings do. Human beings are an aggressive and an expansive species.
Well, and a curious
and
species.
Curious, right. And that's
curious, and we always want, like, new experiences.
And that's what humans were evolved to do. That's what we've been doing, going from one continent to the next, from one jungle to the next, from going here to that. And that's why humans are malfunctioning and doing in the shit, because the challenge isn't there. You know what I mean? And it doesn't take high intelligence. It just takes balls. Okay?
Or ovaries, depending on...
Well, you know what I'm talking about. It just takes guts. They need to get those fucking... The dudes that are causing shit need to be out doing something.
Yeah.
That's why they're causing shit, because they're not using them for what they're for. Exploration.
Well, it's just kind of like what they say, you know, every time that Pookie causes trouble, it's because she's bored and we're not paying attention.
Because she's bored and not paying attention.
And she's like, I'm just going to tear your whole room up and eat all your stuff.
Fuck your Blu-rays. She's just fucking pulling the Blu-rays out.
Fuck your window blinds.
Yeah. She'll pull the Blu-rays out of the damn fucking cabinet.
I went
throw them on the floor.
I went into the walk-in closet other morning. I just got up and I walked into the walk-in closet, turned on the light, like to put on my clothes to go out walking. Pookie was sitting in the walk-in closet. There was just a vast array of Blu-rays and little books and photos and stuff like that she had pulled off that shelf.
Yep.
And they were just all around. And she was just sitting in the middle, just looking innocently up at me like, what's up, Mommy?
Yep.
Look what I did.
Yep.
She very carefully, like, pulled them all out and arranged them and then sat in the middle and then waited for me to come in there.
Yeah, we're getting hit by a storm. We need to end the show.
Oh, yeah,
this
shit.
This is the end of Lazar. We covered Lazar.
We probably did.
I'm not going to fucking talk shit about Lazar. I think he's an interesting character.
Like I said, he seems like a nice man.
He seems like a nice guy. I don't want to call him a liar. I'm going to say he's an entertainer. I think it was all infotainment. And I had a good time listening to Lazar's stories. That's all.
Although I have to say, I can't really recommend that documentary that was on Netflix because it just, I don't know. There was just something I didn't really like about it. It just seemed so Oh, I forgot to mention that Mickey Rourke narrated it.
Yeah.
And he just comes on. He sounded like he was high or drunk as shit.
Yeah.
And it's like all the narration that he was just like this really weird, like poetic. I don't know what the fuck he was saying. He was just like
trying
grumbling.
To make the shit deep.
Yeah, they were like it was like some Deepak Chopra type of shit or whatever.
Yeah.
But except with swearing. And it was just like, I was just like, what the fucking hell is he talking about? How did they get him to do this? Did they like give him some cocaine or what? I don't know. But it's like, it was really weird.
He was great in fucking Expendables.
I love Mickey Rourke. Have you ever seen The Wrestler? Oh, you need to see The Wrestler. You would fucking love that movie. I saw that in the theater.
Shut it down. I quit this bitch, Jenny.
Yeah, because, it's starting to lightning and thunder and everything like that.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
We probably will lose our power momentarily. Yeah. He's got to go to the bathroom. All right, so we're going to wrap up episode 198 about Bob Lazar and Area 51.
Episode
Hope you
200
guys.
coming soon.
I know we got to do Illuminati live stream.
Yeah, it's
with
gonna be an
all that.
Illuminati live
Yeah,
stream.
we got to do all that kind of shit. It'll
Yeah.
be super fun. We gotta like start planning that out.
Okay.
But yeah, so hope you guys have enjoyed episode 198. And remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe on all your social media. If you'd like to financially support the show, go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/13o'clock podcast.
Like,
or,
share, subscribe.
I just said that.
I'm gonna say it again.
Or you can go to our blog, 13. He just can't let me finish a sentence. He's got to like bust into the middle. It's like
I'm drunk.
I know. Go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there is a button in the sidebar that goes to a PayPal account if you'd like to give a one-time donation. Any amount is much appreciated and helps us continue the show, and we will see you next time. Bye.